It's a new dawn, new beginning. The show is as well new. Good morning. My name is Victor Olo. It's 14th day of September 2022. Kenyans are now waking up to a new government altogether for the next 5 years. President William Ruto, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. This morning, the president will be swearing in 6 judges who were appointed 3 years ago to take up their roles at the Court of Appeals and for them to continue serving the nation, and a lot more to be done today based on the executive order which were issued yesterday by the president at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani. We will also be having a discussion with Edward Onyonyi, who is international relations expert, as well as Tobias Alando, who is the acting CEO of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We just want to make sense of what happened yesterday, what we should expect today, and even the coming weeks, months, as well as years to come. But for now, welcome to the show. My name is Victor Lo. Doreen.
New government it is, and Kenyans having a lot of expectations in respect to this new government, at least in the next 5 years as is. And the constitution and the president already put the ducks in the row, I should say, ready for the next step. And this is just in affirming some of those promises that were made during the campaign trail. Key among them also just being the reduction of fertilizers from 65 all the way to 3,500. And the questions lingering amongst most Kenyans is that when will this happen? So of course that and so many more that was talked about yesterday in that speech, and clearly we equally have just a lot in store for you in respect to that. Also just looking at how our dailies are looking like this Wednesday morning, as well as very, very interesting conversations coming your way. Remember that also today being the 14th of September, still eyes are on EPRA. This is for the review of fuel prices. And again, yesterday he hinted at perhaps ending that fuel subsidy. So in the event that that happens, what does this mean for you and I? And we clearly know that fuel is one of those key factors of production. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okello. Regina.
Key priority areas that the president mentioned out, including ensuring that food security is something that we attain. On that, he went after fertilizer, and rightfully put, Doreen, is that the fuel subsidy as well as the maize subsidy might be a thing of the past if the president's speech is anything to go by, claiming that the subsidy that had been put in place for the last 30 days, especially when it comes to the prices of unga, cost the government a cool 7 billion shillings. As from 1st of October, KRA is going to be implementing a 6.3% or excise duty on exportable goods in line with, the act when it comes to matters of inflation. And this is definitely going to affect the cost of living. The president also there told Kenyans, if you were keen to listen, that yes, we have taken up government, but we need to also pull our socks when it comes to matters of taxation, and that it will take time. Kenyans had a lot of expectations, with a majority of them even speaking to KBC Channel 1 that was spread across various counties, including Kilifi and Bungoma. And Kenyans were like, immediately he takes oath, then the price of unga should come down. We will wait and see. We are targeting the impact that the priority areas, including fertilizer cost that has come down, targeting the short rains, will have overall. But 100 days in it, we will be looking at what the president has in store for Kenyans, especially when it comes to his cabinet lineup. He also hinted that this will be the time that his government is going to work on, the gender role. Is this time for women to also take an active role in equal number with their male counterparts? Well, we have a lot of expectations, and KBC Channel 1 sports desk, business desk, as well as the general news desk is going to be keeping tabs on that. Good morning once again. This is In the Headlines, and I am Regina Manyara. Good morning. You're watching In the Headlines. You can get us on Twitter on KBC Channel 1, and my Twitter handle is @RayManyara. Now, President William Ruto has taken oath of office as Kenya's 5th president in an elaborate ceremony organized to precision. Ruto was sworn into office at 12:13 p.m. Tuesday at the Moi Sports Complex, Kasarani, in an event attended by over 16 heads of state and governments, witnessed by thousands of Kenyans.
I, William Samoei Ruto,
in full realization of the high calling I assume as president
of Kenya.
13 minutes past 1 p.m., Kenya had a new head of state, with William Ruto taking oath of office as the 5th president as prescribed by the Assumption of the Office of the President Act.
I have the honor and privilege to...
The swearing-in ceremony entailing 2 parts. The first, led by the judiciary, who saw Ruto, who arrived at Kasarani as president-elect, taking oath of office in an exercise conducted by the Registrar of the Judiciary, Ann Amadi, and witnessed by Chief Justice Martha Koome.
Tumpongeze His Excellency, the 5th President.
5 minutes later, Rigathi Gachagua took his oath as Deputy President of Kenya. Once the mess of the judiciary was lowered, the Chief Justice then handed over the briefcase containing sealed oaths to the head of public service, Dr. Joseph Kinyua. Once the judiciary was done, the military took over the event, with immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta taking to the podium to hand over the instruments of power, which began with the Constitution and then the ceremonial sword. Immediately, the ADC changed to Ruto, who was now Kenya's Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces. And the ceremony capped with a photo session of the immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto, and power had changed from the 4th to the 5th administration. With each and every transition in leadership and changes in regimes, citizens tend to raise their expectations for better governance and improved social and economic welfare. And as the new administration takes over, Kenyans remain optimistic that issues ailing the country will be solved. Kamche Menza at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Nairobi.
Now, Kenya's 5th president, William Ruto, received instruments of power on Tuesday in accordance with the Article 141 of the Constitution that requires a handover be done between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. As per the Constitution, Dr. Ruto received the sword as part of instruments of power. Immediately after receiving the instruments of power, Kenya Defense Forces welcomed the new president with a 21-gun salute, signaling the beginning of an era. Gladys Mungai with the details.
Tuesday, 13th September marked the end of an era and the beginning of another regime.
Nakala hii ya katiba ikiwa ni ishara kuwa taifa litaongozwa kwa uongozi dhabiti ambao
the seamless democratic transfer of power ranging back to independence. The recent one in 2013 when the late President Mwai Kibaki handed over the instruments of power to the outgoing President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Now, Dr. William Ruto, the 5th President of the Republic, was handed over the 2010 Constitution. And the ceremonial sword made of stainless steel handle and a gold-coated blade. The instrument signaling that the country was governed by the rule of law. The ceremony also witnessed the unveiling and hoisting of William Ruto's presidential flag. And at the same time, lowering of the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta's flag.
makofi Mheshimiwa Rais anapopokea bendera hii.
This ceremony would then lead to a 21-gun salute accorded to the 5th president to usher in a new regime.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
As soon as the president took his oath of office, the aide-de-camp also shifted from the outgoing president to the new president. The aide-de-camp, usually a member of the military, is the personal assistant of the president. Henceforth, the aide-de-camp will accompany Ruto in all functions and official duties. President William Ruto was later escorted to the ceremonial vehicle by General Robert Kibochi. And as the tradition moved around, wavering at the crowds before departing for the State House to officially assume his place, having succeeded former president.
And as we promised, KBC Channel 1 was on hand and on site, so to speak, to bring you the live coverage of that auspicious ceremony there. Kasarani complex, they are continuing to make history. Remember, when you talk about Kasarani, we remember the birth of multi-partism, and this happened in 1992, just within the hall within Kasarani. Now, President William Ruto has appointed 6 judges that President Uhuru Kenyatta declined to confirm in June last year. Speaking after taking oath of office, the 5th President Ruto also committed to upscale the budget of the judiciary by 3 billion shillings every year. And as Ishoki Washira reports, the new head of state also intends to enhance efficiency of security agencies by giving the Kenya Police Service financial autonomy.
President William Ruto's maiden speech gives special recognition to Electoral Agency IEBC, the judiciary and security agencies for safeguarding the will of Kenyans in last month's general election, despite what he said were attempts to interfere with the outcome.
We have blazed the trail in an increasingly challenging environment where democracy is consistently on trial. We have come a long way in our nation's journey to freedom, and going by our most recent performance in these elections, we conclude in confidence that we are almost home.
The new president appointing the 6 judges that his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta declined to confirm last year, despite their nomination by the Judicial Service Commission. Further, President Ruto promised to upscale judiciary's budget by 3 billion shillings every year, as well as set up high courts in 7 remaining counties.
These resources will support the bottom-up scaling of justice by increasing the number of small claims courts from the current 25 to 100. To further demonstrate my commitment to the independence of the judiciary, this afternoon I will appoint the 6 judges already nominated for appointment to the Court of Appeal, which was done 3 years ago by the Judicial Service Commission.
The Electoral Agency IEBC and oversight institutions like the Office of Auditor General and Controller of Budget are also set to benefit from budgetary increment. According to President Ruto, the IEBC set new standards in the public service by raising the bar of integrity.
Going forward, we will support the IEBC's institutional capacity so as to expand the deployment of technology to cover all elections, from those of MCA to those of the president.
The new president also outlined some of immediate reforms in the security agencies, including making Kenya Police Service financially autonomous. Currently, the budget of the Kenya Police Service is pegged in the Ministry of Interior, and the new changes will make Inspector General of Police the accounting officer.
I have instructed that the instruments conferring financial autonomy to the National Police Service by transferring their budget from the Office of the President and designating the Inspector General as the accounting officer be placed on my desk for signature this afternoon.
On education matters, the new head of state promised to establish a task force that will collect views on the competence-based curriculum.
I will establish an education reform task force in the presidency, which will be launched in the coming weeks. It will collect views from all players in line with the constitutional demand of public participation, and we are particularly alive to the anxieties of parents on the twin transition of the last 844 class and the first CBC class in January next year. I assure all that there will be a solution to the matter before then.
Immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta also getting to serve in the new administration, to chairing the peace initiatives in the East African community on behalf of Kenya.
Now, this is just some of the actions, the president's actions that were outlined in his speech. Now, let's talk about trade, where all port operations will now have to revert to Mombasa. In his inaugural speech, President William Ruto said he will be issuing instructions for clearing of goods and other attendant operations to Mombasa Port as part of a commitment made to Kenyans during the campaigns. The government had transferred ports clearance from the port of Mombasa in a move to decongest the port.
The port operations will now be returned to Mombasa in a move President William Ruto says will restore thousands of jobs in the city of Mombasa.
I, William Samoei Ruto,
in his first speech after being sworn in, President Ruto said he was responding to the demands of locals and fulfilling a commitment he made to Kenyans during the campaigns.
We will engage TVET institutions to provide necessary skills to enable the Jua Kali industry supply standardized products for our housing program. We will leverage on our competitive advantage in the leather and textile industry to roll out our labor-intensive agro-processing industrialization program. This will start in Naivasha Industrial Park and Dongo Kundu Industrial Park. This afternoon, I will be issuing instructions for clearing of goods and other attendant operational issues to revert to the port of Mombasa, as I made a commitment to Kenyans. This will restore thousands of jobs in the city of Mombasa.
Locals in the coastal town received the news of the new development with accolades.
Nimefurahi leo kuona kwamba rais wetu, maana sasa ni the 5th, kwamba ameregesha port operations back to Mombasa. Hiyo inamaanisha Mombasa tumeona ilikuwa ghost town. So at this time hiyo ni kama mwangaza umetubulika watu wa Mombasa.
Nafurahi amesema bandari inarudi, hilo ni jambo nzuri. Watu watapata kazi na pia the standards of living zitainuka.
Locals saying the directive will see Mombasa roll back to life again, as most of its operations had been moved to Nairobi and Naivasha.
These opportunities zimekuwa chache sana za kazi. So kurudishwa katika port functions hapa Mombasa, that means it will give us more opportunities yani for work hapa pwani Mombasa.
Ni kwamba port inarudi. Inaporudi hata sisi akina mama tutapata kazi ya kufagia na watoto wetu vijana wanaweza kupata ajira.
Hizo services ambazo zinarejea Mombasa inaonyesha kwamba at least other chains of businesses ambazo zilikuwa zinasupportiwa na the port services zitaanza kurejea hapa Mombasa.
Some welcome news there from Mombasa. But now, what happens to Naivasha? We're going to be keeping tabs on that. We have our reporters on ground in Nakuru County. And sure, we're going to follow up with the thoughts and views in regard to that particular move by the president. Now, fuel and maize flour subsidies are likely to be phased out by the government due to their insustainability. Now, President William Ruto has said that the two subsidies have cost the exchequer more than 80 billion shillings so far. Without fuel subsidies, consumers will pay 214 shillings for a litre of petrol and 200 shillings and 17 cents for diesel. Maize flour subsidy has been less successful, leaving the government with more than 10 billion shillings of debt owed to maize millers.
The latest announcement by President William Ruto is coming less than 24 hours before the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority review pump fuel prices. EPRA is expected to announce new monthly fuel prices tomorrow, and all eyes are on the authority to see what new prices will look like. If the government phases out the fuel subsidy program, a litre of petrol will jump to 214 shillings, while diesel will retail at 206 and 17 cents. This is likely to stoke a new round of inflation, making life more unbearable for the majority of Kenyans.
Subsidy alone, the taxpayers have spent a whopping 144 billion, 60 billion in the last 4 months alone. If the subsidy continues to the end of the financial year, it will cost taxpayers 280 billion, equivalent to the entire national government development budget.
Inflation jumped from 61 months in August to 8.5%, spelling more pain for Kenyans. EPRA data shows that diesel accounted for the highest share of the subsidy at 45.7 billion shillings, followed by Super Petrol at 23.3 billion shillings, while kerosene was third at 2 billion shillings in the 6 months to August this year. Speaking during his inauguration, President Ruto has also rolled out a new raft of measures aimed at spurring economic activities. The new measures include settling of all pending bills and reforming the tax administration in the country to make it more friendly to small businesses.
Urgently need to expand our tax base. Our job creation agenda and the capitalization of our SMEs will go a long way in broadening our tax bracket. We will make KRA more professional, efficient, responsive, and people-friendly. I urge taxpayers to respond by undertaking their patriotic duty and pay their taxes.
Ruto says modalities will be created in the next coming weeks to ensure there is a template that will guide the clearing of the 600 billion shillings pending bills.
We shall give priority to the expeditious resolution of our pending bills so that the government can meet its obligation and facilitate better economic performance. In the coming weeks, we shall advise government creditors on the mechanisms for the resolution of their outstanding payments. We are committed to ensuring that they are paid in the shortest time possible.
To guarantee financial inclusion, Ruto says the government will review Credit Reference Bureau regulations to abolish arbitrary listing of defaulters.
A new system of credit score rating that provides borrowers with an opportunity to manage their credit worthiness. This will eliminate the culture of blacklisting.
In a bid to show up economic activities in the real estate sector and reduce informal settlements in the country, the government has promised to construct 250,000 housing units annually. To harness the financial and social muscle of the diaspora, President Ruto will create a ministry in charge of diaspora to, among others, oversee diaspora affairs and remittance activities that Ruto says is vital in replenishing the country's foreign reserves.
The focus has been on remittances, while the fundamental rights as citizens have been neglected. To correct this oversight, I pledge to elevate diaspora to a ministry level, strengthen diaspora services in all embassies, work with Parliament to set up a committee that will exclusively deal with diaspora issues, and set up a mechanism for public participation by Kenyans living in diaspora.
Well, by the end of this afternoon, we will know whether we're going to still have the fuel subsidy or not. We'll be keeping tabs on that. For now, we take a quick breather. We'll be right back.
Walimu na wanafunzi mpo. KBC Channel 1 inakutoa darasani na kukuleta jukwani ili upate kuaminika.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Tayari kuwakariria shairi kwa kichwa.
Kuelimika.
Udhui gani ya lugha yanayojitokeza katika kauli hii ukirejelea mataifa mengi barani Afrika?
Na kisha uburudike.
Moja ni fahari yetu, baba, kina mama na watoto.
Sauti za njiwa tamu sana.
Sanaa ya Kiswahili, elimu na maarifa bila mipaka, kila Jumapili saa 7:30 papa hapa KBC Channel 1.
Mtu akiwa serious, akuwe serious.
Life cannot always be too serious.
Yeah man, what's up here?
Allah? We've got to take some time off and laugh and laugh. And we tickle you down with lots of laughter.
That's why I'm saying I'm who is who.
Huh?
With satire like no other.
Tell him to bring it on.
Aka dakachapa.
Honestly, I didn't even know that Osvaldo was here. It was a complete surprise to me to find him here at the hotel.
We were supposed to meet here in order to get to know each other again and to open up to each other. And now you hide this from me?
He stole your heart and stole my hope of having you by my side. Grandma, why didn't you announce yourself? Why do you just barge in?
So that's why I'm begging you. Please don't look for me again. Please don't ever come near me. Just pretend that I don't exist. If I have to resign, I will, because I don't want to lose my daughter.
Thought I'd react like this. Oh! I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Good morning. This is In the Headlines on KBC Channel 1, and I am Regina Manyara. Now, more than 1.4 million bags of fertilizer will be shipped into the country starting next week. President William Ruto has said the imported fertilizer will retail at 3,500, well below the prevailing market prices of 6,500. President Ruto has further said his administration will develop a new plan to distribute high-quality subsidized seeds to farmers in the country, and as Benson Rioba has the details for more.
The cost of fertilizer has surged in the last year to an all-time high of 6,500 shillings, pushing production cost well beyond the reach of ordinary farmers. This, coupled with adverse weather, has aggravated the food situation in the country. Earlier efforts to subsidize the cost of fertilizer have failed due to insufficient funds. Speaking after his swearing in, President William Ruto has outlined various measures meant to tackle the high cost of farming in the country. Ruto's administration further says it will increase funding to producers, mainly manufacturers and agro-processors, to lower the cost of food products.
The intention, therefore, is to make fertilizer, good quality seed, and other agricultural inputs affordable and available.
To alleviate the shortage of fertilizer, 1.4 million bags of the commodity are expected in the country from next week, which will retail at 3,500 shillings from the current 7,000 shillings in some regions in the country.
Short rains, we have already made arrangements to make 1.4 million bags of fertilizer available at Kenya shillings 3,500 for a 50 kilogram bag, down from the current 6,500. This fertilizer will be available from next week.
The fertilizer subsidy plan will also be extended to tea farmers, with the new administration initiating talks with the Kenya Tea Development Agency to distribute the fertilizer to farmers at a cost of 3,500 shillings.
Tea farmers, we have made arrangements with KTDA to immediately supply tea farmers with fertilizer at 3,500 shillings, down from Kenya shillings 5,600.
Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has promised to support his boss, President William Ruto, in transforming the country. In his maiden address after taking oath of office, Gachagua thanked Kenyans for giving him the opportunity to serve them.
I, Rigathi Gachagua,
do swear
that I will always
truly and diligently
serve
the people and the Republic of Kenya in the office.
Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua took the oath of office as the second in command immediately after President William Ruto. The oath was administered by Chief Registrar of Judiciary Ann Amadi.
I, Martha Karambu Kome, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, do hereby present to you, the people of Kenya, the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, and present him.
Tumpongeze sasa kwa makofi Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
And immediately he assumed the number 2 position. Gachagua promised that their leadership will strive to provide a conducive environment for business in the country.
The fact that you are a hard worker, you have passion to serve, you are zealous, you are a go-getter. The journey ahead of you is not rosy. And I want to ask the people of Kenya, the way you prayed for President William Ruto to be elected as president, please continue praying for him and his team to be able to start the economic transformation of this great republic.
The second in command said that the new government, through his boss, President William Ruto, will work tirelessly to revive the dilapidated economy and transform lives of Kenyans.
Truth of the matter is that we have inherited a dilapidated economy that is facing almost an economic shutdown. We have a 10 trillion public debt. 6 million Kenyans have no employment. 14 million Kenyans are in CRB. We have a demoralized public service. It is your prayers that will help our president to put up a team and start work from day one to liberate this country economically.
Rigathi is the second to occupy the office of the Deputy President of Kenya under the new constitution, which was first occupied by current President William Ruto.
Well, that efficiently puts a cap on news this morning. Just invite you to check out our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, for further details. I'm Regina Manyara. I hand you over to my colleague Victor Olo.
Thank you, Regina. And now let's take a look at what we have on the front page of our local dailies. With me in studio already, I have got Acting CEO of Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Tobias Alando, and Edward Wanyonyi, who is international relations expert. We'll be having a discussion with them shortly. But right about now, what do you have on the front page of our local dailies? On the front page of the Standard, President's Thunder. That was front page of the Standard, President's Thunder. The ink had barely dried on his oath when Kenya's 5th President William Ruto made a raft of pronouncements upsetting the exiting administration. DP Rigathi Gachagua narrated their frustrations before international guests, promising new freedoms for all. But beyond the rhetoric, the hard work begins. That was on the front page of the Standard. Very quickly on to the People Daily. Let me just get it there. President Ruto We have got the pictures there. Fifth head of state and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua take oath of office at Colourful Feet in Nairobi. Ruto gives executive orders on port, police service, hiring of new judges on his first day at work. And over 20 African leaders and heads of delegations from across the world attend the ceremony. There is a story there, fleshed out there for you all through the pages 2, 3, 4, 5 until the 12th page. You can take a look at that. Ruto takes over, reigns of power, promises plenty. It's now a matter of implementation now ahead for the president. On the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto takes over. William Ruto takes over from Uhuru Kenyatta as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya in a colourful ceremony at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani, attended by more than 20 African heads of state. With the symbolic transfer of the instruments of power, the president takes leadership of a nation in the throes of an economic meltdown characterized by high food commodity prices, a huge public debt, and an ever-widening tax deficit hole. The campaign's over. This is where the rubber meets the road. That is what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. And of course, there with the ceremonial, the military ceremonial sword there with the president. We'll get more details as we continue with our program. Finally, on the front page of the Star, Ruto, my promise, new president takes charge amidst thunderous cheers, appoints 6 judges. So that's expected. Actually, the swearing-in ceremony is expected today at State House. And you can take a look at that story as well. Kasarani painted yellow, God thanked as Ruto is sworn in. The story continues, etc., etc. There's a story here. Which doctors will refund 30,000 shillings for flood charms? Farmer wanted to catch chicken thief, told to plant charms to immobilize Porsche. I have to get to this story. So a Kakamega witch doctor has been ordered by the court to refund a client 30,000 shillings for charms that failed to work. Miracles. The client wanted magical charms to protect his property, including chickens. Edward Wanyonyi, it had to be chickens. Let me start with you, Edward. First of all, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
New day, new dawn, new administration all together.
Yes.
And next to you is Tobias Alando, CEO, acting CEO of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We are on set, an amazing show coming up for you. And of course, we also have Diaspora to speak to us on their expectation and their reaction on what happened yesterday at Kasarani. So let's get to the road. What happened yesterday? Let's just give it a quick preview. What do you take home from yesterday?
What elated my heart was just the organization that went behind to make the event a success.
Yes.
It was stellar. It was something that even the whole country can look at and actually become very grateful that we have been able to come a long way. And I think this is a major learning point for the region. We can be very proud as Kenyans in terms of what we have been able to achieve. Actually, I was impressed by the level of coordination and the military execution. If you look at the first, the passing on of the late President Daniel Arap Moi, the conduct of the military in the passing of the late President Mwai Kibaki, and yesterday's occasion, you can actually see level of precision and organization and joyfulness that Kenyans had in terms of better organization.
Yeah. And perhaps nobody thought that President Kenyatta would attend. There were a lot of doubts whether he would attend or not, but weren't you? He was there the entire session.
Yes, and I think that is the maturity that we're talking about, the democratic maturity that we've been able to see. And you could actually look at the social media comments that were coming up, and other countries, citizens were saying, we hope we could also, Kenyans would also have the opportunity to see the transitions and inaugurations in other countries.
Yes.
Meaning that the maturity that the former head of state exhibited, and the whole successive handover, the conduct of the assumption of office, team that put together the whole event. I think it is commendable and it is remarkable. The graciousness of the incoming government, and even the speech that the president put forward, I think that showed a level of maturity and a level of a high standard, I think, even for our regional and international partners, to see that we have come a long way.
All right. Tobias, what do you take home yesterday? It's over now.
Yep.
Rubber meets the road.
Firstly, I think what we saw yesterday is a demonstration of a united country. And the fact that we showed the world that we are a country that has progressed in our democracy. Whether one group voted for the president or not, he is now the president of the country, and we need to work and rally behind him and support him. To our counterparts in the region, I think is also demonstrated that elections can be done in a more peaceful way. The key organs that look into the elections can work effectively without any fear or intimidation. The judiciary, the electoral commission, the security agency, and we can have a peaceful transition. So it's a lesson to other regions also that they need to work towards peaceful transition.
Yes.
But now the rubber meets the road. We are here to work and support the president in his agenda.
Because based on what he said yesterday, it's all systems go. To him, there is no any minute left for to be wasted. There is no holiday. It's service delivery right now. But coming from what's happening yesterday at the Moi Center Kasarani, we would see a huge crowd, as reports would take it, that as early as 4 a.m. The stadium was packed. Is this what you mean by peaceful transition compared to other years?
There is, in every election, there is excitement.
Yes.
Excitement because elections are normally very tensed. And so one part definitely has to win. And that part, one wing of our people have to celebrate. We have to give them that chance to celebrate the win. But after celebration, definitely we have to come together and say what is ahead of us. We need to sit together and work together to achieve what is ahead of us. But seeing people coming early in the morning, it's typically an enthusiasm that was witnessed because of the tension we had in the past. And probably many people didn't believe that His Excellency William Ruto would win. So the fact that he won, that brings that excitement to his many supporters.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I don't know, when you even actually look at how the whole event was planned, again, the transfer of power, the precision by the military you've talked about. In 2017, by the time there was handing over power, another team was in court. There were demonstrations all over. But this time around, either you are at Kasarani or you are at home.
Yes, I think we can look at it from history. In 2002, when President Mwai Kibaki was coming in, and President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi was handing over power. And you remember the unbogable feel, you know, and you know how Kenyans were, you know, erratic, ecstatic, you know, the euphoria that was actually in that handover was momentous, you know, because President Kibaki came in, you know, on a wheelchair because he had come from an accident, you know, and so you can see the joy that happens, especially when you're getting to that 10-year mark after the presidency. You looked at what happened in 2013 when now the Jubilee duo, you know, the President Kenyatta and Ruto, that time as the deputy, were coming in. And you can see the joy that was there. Evidently, whenever there is a very strong and spirited campaign, the excitement is always there. However, we understand that beyond the excitement, there is now work to be done. And that's why you find that at the 5-year mark, it almost appears as if the presidency comes to an exam. That mark becomes very, very challenging, in terms of that election. You could see it in 2017, you could see it in 2007. That becomes a very challenging moment, for all presidents who have come into power. And we hope in 2027, maybe, with the kind of bold ambition that the president has put forward, it will be a smooth movement.
Yeah. Tobias, when you look at how everything is now unfolding, the president himself was perhaps borrowing from his manifesto and his promise to Kenyans that the moment I'll put down the Bible, business will be on. And as we speak this particular morning, either to be confirmed, 6 judges will be sworn in.
Correct.
And when you look at how the whole of that progress is taking shape, you would imagine what's in plenty for the president to tackle.
Correct. And I'm glad the president is doing this, because this election was about issue-based.
Yes.
And it's an issue-based election. Each side promised that once elected, we'll do A, B, C, and D. And that has made the citizen to be to account to these leaders in terms of what are you going to do when you come in. And the president, His Excellency Ruto, has done the first thing that he promised about dealing with the issue of the judges, and he's going to appoint the judges. So we look at even his manifesto, we look at his commitment during the elections campaign. There are specific items that he said, once I get in, immediately I am sworn in, I'll do A, B, C, D. And he's done that. And he looks like a man of his word. So we are looking forward to seeing a great achievement in his government. And of course, he has the support of the citizen. Yes.
But Edward, do you think Kenyans are overambitious? There is now too much pressure on him to deliver. In 100 days, we want to see this happening. Okay, you said you're going to do this. Fine. We want to see instant change.
Well, I don't think it's over ambition. I think it's just that we have to appreciate the context of our presidential office. And the context of our presidential office, if you look at past presidencies, even before the 2010 constitution, is that the office of the president is heavily loaded. It's an inverted triangle, so to speak, with a lot of expectations and power that the presidency wields. There are decisions which cannot happen in this country without the presidency, either taking the political stand or actually appending his signature. And so I think with those expectations, Kenyans feel that it is only the president who can cause things to happen. And it's unfortunate because we are in a devolved government system whereby we need to come up with now the turn around the triangle, and so that it is bottom heavy. And I think with the bottoms up philosophy that the Kenya Kwanza came up with, it will be important to see how that level of expectation is devolved at the lowest level. Counties are able to get things working, and you don't need the president to do anything much at that level. Ideally, the county governments are working effectively, the public service or the civil service is working effectively, the private sector has been incapacitated, and now systems are working. And you can just look at it from, the president's promise to judiciary in terms of expanding the number of small claims courts to 100, across the country. That is going to be very significant in terms of ensuring that justice is served, expedited, and now you are trying to depressurize, that level of moving the presidency from reporting and responding to every kind of call and that is coming up.
Yes.
We hope that now we will see the president not being trolled and asked, minor things on social media, and the weighty things will now come to the presidency that actually require his attention. So we hope that...
And he's very much aware of this.
Yeah, and so we hope that, once the system is working and you get parliament to do its role, the county governments are accountable, the civil service is accountable, then the rest of the items will flow by gravity. And we hope that it will now be able to action, the presidential manifesto to come to pass.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'm told that we need to take a break, and we come back. We're still having this discussion. We are not yet started, all right? This is just a warm-up. We have got so much in store for you, so stick around. If you have a cup of coffee, grab it. We'll be right back.
There. Good boys gone bad.
Eric Omondi has evolved from being a comedian to now being the king of clout chasing.
How does a gospel artist make money? Jaguar wept again.
As a celeb, as a followers, but it's a time for artists to make bank.
Yes. How is your relationship with Zari, considering that she dates young?
These are accessories.
They do not make. Slap the guy.
Yo, what's up? My name is Ted Josiah.
Much
I'm watching Pop Culture with Adhiambo with a Y.
Honestly, I didn't even know that Osvaldo was here. It was a complete surprise to me to find him here at the hotel.
We were supposed to meet here in order to get to know each other again and to open up to each other. And now you hide this from me?
He stole your heart and stole my hope of having you by my side. Grandma, why didn't you announce yourself? Why do you just barge in?
So that's why I'm begging you. Please don't look for me again. Please don't ever come near me. Just pretend that I don't exist. If I have to resign, I will, because I don't want to lose my daughter.
Thought I'd react like this. Oh! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I know we speak. I know we speak.
You serve the Lord, your creator, your celestial maker.
Now, Tobias, let me just come back to you now and understand. Now, the president talked about one important thing here: the issue of fertilizer to be reduced from 6,500 per 50 kg bag to 3,500 shillings starting next week. From the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, how do you take this home?
Well, I must laud the president, because this one will support the agriculture sector of the economy in terms of enabling farmers to get fertilizer on time, for them to produce, to farm and produce. However, we need to be very cautious in terms of the sustainability. If it is a subsidy program, normally subsidies are short-term initiatives that are lauded. But we need to think about the future.
Yes.
And the future is create facilities for the fertilizers to be manufactured and produced locally instead of importing it. Once you create facilities within the country with specific incentives for investment or production of fertilizer, then one, we will address the issue of costs. Two, we'll address the issue of availability because it is no longer imported. So it is a lauded effort by government to reduce the fertilizer cost at 3,500, but let's look at the sustainability by putting up mechanism for the fertilizer to be produced and manufactured locally.
Yeah. The issue is sustainability because, and they talked about because of the short range period.
Correct.
And that is why it's going to be available around 1.4 million bags as from next week. But then somebody will ask a question: is it a DAP? Is it the CAN? Is it urea? Or what kind of fertilizer is going to be available? When you look at the productivity, there is that issue of demand and supply.
Yes.
How is it going to balance so that at the end of the day there is no quick supply and then all of a sudden we run out of stock?
Yes. I think we already have the government agencies with statistics of where we have the largest production of specific farm produces. For example, if we are looking at maize as a main staple food of this country, we know, we've mapped which areas we produce enough maize, and these areas require the fertilizer immediately. So based on the records that the Ministry of Agriculture has, then we'll be able to redistribute the fertilizer to the most required areas to produce food. Because we are trying also to address food security.
Yes.
In the long run.
In the long run.
Yes.
And Edward, it's about agriculture that is based on his manifesto.
Yes.
Agriculture, value addition, productivity, and so much more. Perhaps Kenyans were looking for an immediate remedy. When you talk of what is the president going to say in his inaugural speech? Somebody talked about sijasikia akisema unga irudi from 250 to 130 ama to 99 shillings. What are the hits and misses in his first speech?
I think it will require a bit of looking at the context, because there are dynamics in terms of presidential acceptance speech making. One, is it that you want to strike the populist tone in terms of appeasing the public and saying, you know, this marks as a commemoration of our victory at the political level?
Yes.
Or are you speaking to the presidential standard as a president of the country and saying, this is the new direction we are going in, and the flight we are taking will move this country from here to this other side? And I think that was the kind of balance that was being debated, and I could actually see that if you look at the tone that was set by the deputy president vis-a-vis the tone that was the president set, there was an issue to do with, is it a campaign victory speech vis-a-vis, is it the presidential tone that you actually set a new flight direction for the country?
What was there?
I think it was a mix of both. And the president was giving also a flight direction in saying, this is how we are going to realize, you know, the commitments we made in our manifesto.
Yeah.
But most important, he was also trying to give a very strong message that is not just going to be talk and no action. And so you have a number of immediate directives that he gave, and he actually went ahead and started implementing them, which for me means that the tone he is setting, even for his cabinet ministers, is you're not going just to speak about issues and disappear from the scene. There will be need for follow-through. And I see that in terms of even the presidency that Obama put forward when he came into office. You know, you want a president who can track changes in terms of following through and combing through the nuts and bolts of whatever commitment he says. And that becomes important in our space, whereby sometimes ministries get caught up in the bureaucracy and they do not want to move out of their mandates and execute implementation. Take a context, for example, the housing ambition. The housing ambition requires not just the Ministry of Housing or for public works as it is. You require Ministry of Roads because some of the houses will be on roads reserves. You require the Ministry of Lands to be there. You require the Ministry of Trade and Industrialization. You require Tobias here to ensure that manufacturers are giving you the raw products. So you need a level of doing in multi-agency approach and an energy to commit yourself and move away from bureaucracy. Otherwise, every now and then, the president will be calling a meeting to see what is the status of this, and people will be going around in circles.
But that's the true nature of the situation, because the president cannot act unilaterally. He'll have to do lots and lots of meetings, and that is where now we'll start having the drawbacks. You know, but that has not happened because of a reason or two.
And that requires the president to really put out this multi-agency approach of working and say, in this project, which agency plays the lead? Which agency plays the support functions?
Kenya Association of Manufacturers is there.
Yes, and it requires them, even as manufacturers, to put the act in order in terms of the memorandum that they will be now sharing with the respective line minister, which will be either trade and industrialization, to say, as manufacturers, this is our core ask in terms of enabling the business sector to work. And that means at that level of the cabinet, there will be need for very experienced technocrats who can come in from a solutions perspective to ensure that the system does not have any form of blockages. And people come in with an opportunity of, let us make it work, not let us keep on raising problems.
But you see now, when you talk of raising problems, because at the end of the day, Kenya is a manufacturing country, and when you look at his speech, the president is more of, let's save and produce our own and let's solve our own problems, rather than going and borrowing, because that has been his main problem ever since. So it seems like the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, there is so much weight for you as an association and Kenya in general to deliver.
Very true. And from where we sit, we've already identified and come up with our own manifesto in terms of what are the priority issues that we wish the current government should tackle to increase the manufacturing GDP contribution from the current 8.2 to probably 20 in the next 10, 15 years. We've identified areas, and one of them is, of course, look at the global competitiveness. Whatever is produced here needs to be competing with what is produced in other countries in terms of quality and in terms of price. Are we able to do that? Yes, we are. So we are able to produce anything in this country so long as we get the necessary incentives and the necessary frameworks that are required for the production. We rely a lot on raw materials, and of course materials come from outside the country, and some of those raw materials need to be accessible. And we need also to have a plan of to produce some of those items locally. The raw material, from the raw material to intermediate product to finished goods, then we produce. So it's upon the government, as they are focusing on job creation, is upon the government to see that the only way they're going to create job is establish manufacturing plants, because manufacturing plants employ thousands and thousands of people, both at the shop floor, at the distribution end, at the marketing end, and all the value chain.
And the reason why I asked you, because now, you know, that heavy load is going to come back to you, because manufacturing begins from the Juakali. It begins from the border, you know, the assembly plants in Kenya. We have got assembly lines in
the SMEs.
The SMEs. So you have got a lot of work to do, Tobias, and probably we'll come back here to give us an overview and a report card. Perhaps Edward will also be here to tell us, you will give us your report card. But right now then, let's cross over and talk to Hamis Mbogo, who is a governance expert, also to give us his opinion. Director, yes?
Ways of accelerating national development is through collaboration with county governments. As Deputy President, I witnessed firsthand the tremendous potential of intergovernmental synergy and look forward to scaling up our capacity to harness these bountiful possibilities. Because of this realization, I have no hesitation in accelerating the transfer of outstanding functions to counties together with the attendant resources. To promote budget efficiency and minimize disruptions and delays in devolved service delivery, my administration commits to take necessary measures to secure the timely disbursement of revenues allocated to county governments.
All right, and now let's talk to Hamisi Boga, governance expert, to give us his opinion on what transpired today. Hamisi, good morning. The event of yesterday now calling upon all Kenyans to wake up and roll up their sleeves. I don't know, what's your opinion?
Yeah, thank you, Victor, and thank you, my sister from USA and all of us. Yesterday we watched very keenly the of the president, and especially those of us who are interested in county government, the stroke local government system. We were really anxious to see what is he going to say about it. So when he touched about disbursement of funds from central government to county government, I was so happy and keenly listening, because it has been a big problem in terms of the funds. Having been part of the system when we're preparing the county government legislation drafts, one of the recommendations we had made is we're taking local authorities that have big debts. So the first thing was the national government should have cleared the debt so that we start from an empty place, but they didn't. But we're saying it's okay, it's never too late. And also the other bottleneck is when the budget is done, the time between the budget the allocation from the parliament and also the authority from control of budget to counties has been a challenge. If it can be smooth and it can be fastened, all county governments will receive adequate funding at the right time. And then we have to also check the funds that are moving down. The report that we're getting from the county government is some of the monies are not accounted for, and this has to be done. So I'm happy about the comments that he's making and also the action that he's planning to do. County government will improve, because that is where you touch every citizen of this country in terms of those services. These counties were established to provide services at the lowest level possible of our nation, so that everybody feels that the government is doing something. So we have to close gap between the expenditure and also the income that is coming from national government, the income that they are collecting. Let's look at it. How much are they collecting? Are they going up or down? One of the papers we read was they are collecting less than local authorities used to collect. What is the problem? And therefore, we need to do this. On the first term of the 2010, the counties do something because they were busy, they were buying vehicles, they were making offices. But 10 years later, it should be just service provision, and these monies must be collected properly, must be spent properly, must be recorded, and therefore the citizens would feel, oh, this government is doing something. So yes, I'm happy if that is going to happen. Especially, we saw, even now as we speak, there are counties that have not paid their staff for 1, 2, or 3 months' salaries. That should not happen in a decentralized system of government with annual budget. So yes, we have to do these things, and I'm happy if it can be done. Let's see. Let's give the benefit of doubt to the new administration, and some of us who are writing research who are keenly watching the next 6 months, so that we can be able to write a report, whether there is a progress or we're doing things the way they used to be done. Victor.
Just hold on there before I let you go. Gentlemen, it's about delivery. And one most important thing is the president, you alluded to that, is that he's going to strengthen the counties and disbursement of funds, something that has been a very big problem, because you now have to realize that instead of focusing on the presidency, you have to strengthen devolution. I don't know what's your take on that, Edward.
I think it's important that the president has already set the tone for effective county government working. What we need is now to go back, and this will also be well managed by the CS we will appoint to handle devolution issues, to strengthen the Intergovernmental Relations Authority, because that now allows better coordination between the national government and the county governments, and working together with the county governments that actually are forming themselves under regional economic blocks. You know, you have the Council of Governors, you have the Devolution Conference that is always annual. These are spaces that now they can be able to now see where are the challenges in terms of disbursement that is happening. But also, we should not be very quick to blame the government in terms of disbursement when absorption is an issue. Because we see counties being very ambitious, fleets of cars for the governors. You know, every CEC wants to have also the latest Range Rover and Lexus, and the question is that then what remains to work for the people? What is this prestige that CECs want to have equivalent to the cabinet secretaries at the national level? Yet at that level, absorption is an issue, and even, you know, the essential services that you want at the county level, they are not being effected. And so what happens, you will have a very bloated county government, you will have staffing that is not commensurate to the needs and the resources available, and you will now be operating at a minimum or even a negative even before you've started your devolution work. And so we need to relook at that, the prestige and the allure of extravagance at the county level, and try to say this is public service. It is not you being a mini CS at the county level and you want to have all the perks, and you also want to be flying business class. You also want to be on a daily basis going to Mombasa for retreats and conferences and workshops. So what will you work with if at the county level you're not being very keen on capping expenditure? And you want to have this week, you know, the county assembly is doing a benchmarking. Next week, the CECs are doing a benchmarking. So what will remain to work for the people?
It sounds easy. It sounds easy. It sounds easy. Implementation is another thing.
Yes, it's another thing, and we need to tell our county governments to really be prudent, and mindful of cutting down on excesses, and to ensure that that little resource that is coming to the county is well utilized, and from gaps which will emerge, you know, you have MPs who can raise those issues at the parliament and say this is where we need national government intervention. And so then we're able to bring in the likes of, you know, Tobias with his team. What are the kind of areas we can activate in terms of, you know, business development, growth, and the private sector? And so then you'll have counties starting to work. As long as we can ensure that, for example, revenues offices in counties are effective and can account for the little they are getting, then you will see that public service and the delivery of services at the level of the county is more beneficial, and you really don't need to have a Nairobi delegation coming to a county.
Okay, before I come to you, Tobias, let me just get back to you, Hamisi Boga. Hamisi, let me just get your point on this. We have got a new regime altogether. So how is going to be the connection between the county governments having their manifestos and their blueprints in terms of execution of their agenda in their respective counties connected to the national government's agenda?
Two things which are coming very clear in my mind. That like what my brother said, we must strengthen the intergovernmental relations because they have a role to play. The moment you strengthen that relationship of national and county, so that if there are any issues to do with lacking of resources, issues to do with capacities, can be discussed. But first thing first, I think we didn't do it in 2013 and we didn't do it very well in 2017. the new people who are coming into the county, we are talking about the MCAs and the CECs, there must be a thorough induction of the roles and responsibilities. What are you here for? I know we all have an idea of what we're supposed to be, but there must be a script that we are here because of providing services. To provide services, your role is X, Y, Z. If the county assembly is oversight, are they doing it? Do they know the skills, especially the new ones? We need to have a thorough induction in the next 1 month or so that everybody is aware. And there should be actually a booklet of our roles and how to play those roles and what will be the oversight entry points. So that would be helping at the county level. And then the intergovernmental relations is to help the connection, because we are one national government with units inside. So they must be working together, because when we had a challenge of health issues, everybody was affected. So you cannot say my government in Mandera, my government in Mombasa. It is our government. If they must be solved locally and nationally, and this is where the intergovernmental relation is so crucial. So I'm happy if this can be done immediately, if they settle down in terms of their functions. First things first, let's have a thorough induction, and we are prepared. It's better to do a thorough induction than buying cars and whatever. So if the money can be spent in the next 1 month or so that everybody is clear of the roles and responsibility and what sanctions can be done if somebody has gone out of the script, this will really help to do that. And then the oversight institution, the control of budget, the Senate, and even Parliament, if things go that way, these units have to open up and see what is happening. When they get a report from counties, what action do they take? What action has been taken against this? So there are some counties that have performed so well. Some of us have been writing about it. But there are others that will need a lift, need a push to be able to do what they're required to do. The other thing was the functions were not transferred, all of them.
Yes.
And this thing has come. In fact, during the process when we had the transition authority, we thought they will be taken step by step until you are ready for health, take health. Are you ready for infrastructure? But this was done one time in one circular of my colleague Womangi. They were given all of them. Health came, everything came, minus the budgetary allocation for those functions. It was a big blow to the county government. Right. I hope this time around, every function must follow. Funds must follow functions. If you give somebody functions, resource them, so that, and also now oversight them so that they do the right thing. This has to be done. Victor and all of us must be watchful. Citizens, what are the roles of the citizenry? What are we supposed to do? We according to the Constitution, we are the owners of this Constitution. Have we played our role? Have we checked? Have we reprimanded? Have we recommended? Have we commended? All these things, citizens must be regrouped again right now to also know their roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Bigger role in
the policy. That hasn't been the policy that money follows functions. I don't know how it's going to be this time around. Hamisi, just hold on there. Don't go away. Tobias, the issue of every county, one product. How is it going to be achieved? Do you even have that in plan as an association?
Yes, it's one of the suggestions we've had, emulating the Ghana model, one industry in one district. It's very possible, but we need to assess based on productivity.
Yes.
In line with agro-processing, in line with the resources that are available for you to set up an industry in those specific areas. But it is very possible with the incentives available, you can set up industries anywhere in this country.
Yes.
Because investors just require an incentive. They require land. If you give them land, they require raw materials. If it is available in specific area, then they will invest in that factory. They'll set up a factory and employ people. So it is very possible, and it is working in Ghana. The other thing that we need to address, and I think I didn't see it in the presidential speech, two things. One is cutting down on expenditure. I know in any government, there's a lot they plan to do. We'll allocate these funds, but we need to see
about the national government.
The national government.
Right.
I'm going to the national government and the county government because it reflects both. We need to see both national government also being very vocal in cutting down expenditure. The wage bill, you've seen what happened in Kisii. You've seen what happened, I think it's also in Migori, where they put all the staff in a stadium. Particularly, I saw the drivers and all that.
Kisii and Machakos.
Because you realize there's a lot of ghost workers. So we are spending a lot of money that would have gone to development on paying salaries. And you're paying salaries to people who you don't get output in terms of benefit to the citizen. So we need to really be serious in cutting down the expenditures, both at the county level and at the national level. The other item that I've not seen the national and the county government being vocal about is corruption. Corruption is a menace. In the past, we've heard that we are losing about 2 billion shillings. Almost every month.
Every day,
actually.
Yes.
Every day.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. So we need the president and the county executives and the county governors to be very vocal and committed towards fighting corruption. Accountability will be very key on utilization of the resources that are given and governance within the county.
All right.
The public, the citizen, as an organization like us, we are committed towards engaging and holding them accountable. But as leaders in those respective areas, they also need to be vocal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, let's take a break. When we come back, we still have got so much more lined up for you as well. We're not yet done. The show didn't answer. Let me just put it that way. We'll be right back.
There's a new game in town. It's a game like no other. It's captivating. It's fun. And refreshing.
Which year was the film released?
Correct answer.
Don't miss out on the Second Chance television game show, premiering on Channel 1.
Akili, Akili, this is Akili.
Hey there, friends, what time is it?
What should Akili say to greet little lion?
Wow!
Can you read the word?
Oh! Don't worry, Bush Baby. You can draw it again.
Akili, Akili, this is Akili. She has a secret.
Tell us!
When the sun goes down, Akili goes to sleep, and she enters a world where all the animals speak.
Ukiniangalia mimi mtu kununua second hand?
You look second hand yourself right now.
Mimi nakaondieka. Niangalie hivi, nakaondieka.
Not with those. Maybe with the tummy. No. But
Tosha.
Huyu hata tujuani. Do you know me?
Arre, Baba.
We don't know each other.
iko lines hapo.
When husband ama ni houseboy? Husband. Nini wewe inakusumbua?
Makoha.
Yes.
Jambo.
Fine, thank you. Oh my God. No. Let me talk the truth and accept the devil, please. Please.
Babyface.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like that. Yes.
Babyface.
Yeah.
Ulionaje kazi yangu? Skills zangu za uzaji zikoaje?
You are excellent.
Wewe mzee. Hatuko hapa mchezo.
Ni kweli hata nani.
Sasa ukisha si uongee vile unaongea.
All right, welcome back. A lot is happening across the country, and of course the president is expected today to appoint, to swear in the 6 judges, and for them to hit the ground running already, and that is expected to be taking place later on in the day, and so much more. So it's a busy day for the president as he takes over office officially today. Okay, so on that note, let's cross over. I want us to talk to Kenyans in the diaspora and talk to Professor Girono Phyllis Rotich, who is in the United States of America, to get her views. But before then, director, please. All right. Before we cross to Girono in the States, let's just take a listen on what the president said yesterday.
We have elevated our diaspora to the 48th county. Has always been that the diaspora does not receive adequate attention and attention they deserve. The focus has been on remittances, while the fundamental rights as citizens have been neglected. To correct this oversight, I pledge to elevate diaspora to a ministry level, strengthen diaspora services in all embassies, work with Parliament to set up a committee that will exclusively deal with diaspora issues, and set up a mechanism for public participation by Kenyans living in diaspora.
Very well, and there you have her. We have Professor Girono Phyllis Rotich, who is a professor of kinesiology and associate dean for organizational climate, inclusion and belonging in the School of Public Health at the Indiana University, Bloomington. Professor, welcome to the program. The president talked about having diaspora as the 48th county. What is your take?
Yes, good morning, and thank you so much. That was great music to our ears. We've been looking forward to that. And yes, it is true that we have felt neglected. I have the privilege of serving as a president for the Kenyan Scholars and Studies Association, as well as a CEO and founder of the Kenya Students in Diaspora. I'm also on several boards, Kenya National Council of Elders, Kenya Christian Fellowship, Kenya Diaspora Association. So yes, I'm very conversant with what is going on in diaspora. And yes, it was very true that we have always felt like we are left out. You know, with my job where I work with the community to make sure that everybody's included and belongs, that is not the feeling that we have received from our Kenyan government. So this was great news today to hear that our president, and by the way, congratulations to His Excellency, President Uhuru and his deputy, and we are so proud of his accomplishments. So we look forward to this elevation of the diaspora to a 48th county. We look forward to more services, because some of the issues that we've been having is we have a lot of especially with services from the ministries, from the embassies, and a lot of them, I think it's because of the funding that they receive. So I am very close to the DC area in New York. So they're doing their best, but it's just that they don't have the support that they need. So this is great that they will provide resources for those embassies so that they can better serve Kenyans. In terms of addressing issues, having a ministry, that is great, because like I said, diaspora is very, very broad. And remember that diaspora, we are very vibrant constituency, that we should not be ignored. We are the best. There is no greater person than the diaspora, Kenyans in diaspora, who can actually promote Kenya's interests, who can market our country, who can, we are ambassadors of Kenya. So this investment in us is great. We are the engine that can transform our country. We have resources, we have skills, we have talents that have not been harvested. We have brain drain. How can we harvest that so that we have more of us coming? So that was wonderful news, and we hope that it will continue to work with us. We set up mechanisms for participation by diaspora. Like I said, I'll give an example. Most of us scholars, we have been coming to Kenya through a Carnegie Fellowship. I was in Kenya the last 2 summers at the University of Nairobi. Most of us were working on curriculums, development, training. Most of us actually worked on CBC. I know CBC is another headache that has not been resolved. And by the way, CBC is a curriculum system. So we are very, very conversant. We are available to help. We are willing to assist. It's just that people ignore the diaspora. So we have free resources here. We have free talents that we can offer every support that we need. We just concluded our 14th annual KESA conference, Kenya Scholars and Association, where we had many students, many scholars. And that was the same conversation we had with the CS, the peers of education, who was able to join us virtually, as well as our ambassador. And we were having the same discussions as to what is it that we as diaspora can do. We want to help. We want to build our nation. We are so dedicated, but we just, people is just bringing money, which we will continue to do that. But how can we participate? If you look at the other day, something that you forgot is the IABC, where many people are not able to vote because the distances are so far. So I just want to again emphasize that this is a great need. Hope and pray that they'll follow through with that, because we need avenues for support. There's a lot of issues, there's a lot of challenges that we have as a diaspora. For example, most recently the issue that we've been dealing with is students are having challenges getting visas. So I just don't want them to deal with Kenyan embassies, but also to work with other countries. For example, the US, there's such a backlog of visas. Our students are getting all these scholarships, but they are not able to travel. They're not able to get visas on time. So therefore, we are losing students. Many of us have connections. We want to collaborate. For example, the institution that I am at, Indiana Bloomington, we've had a long time relationship.
Just hang on there. Prof, just hang on there. Don't go away. I know it's a bit late right now and you want to go to bed. But let me come back to studio and ask you this question, Edward. You've heard what Prof is saying, but there's that issue of where do we define diaspora and to make it at the 48th county?
Yes, and I think that will fall on the legal team that the president will put together from the AG and Parliament largely to look at the parameters on how this will be engaged, because there is an issue to do with geography. Do we look at diaspora in terms of those who are immediately out of the country? For example, those ones who are within the East Africa community, and are their issues addressed at the East Africa community? The issues of those who are in South Africa now going to be addressed at the COMESA level, or the other regional blocks that we have and are part of? Or are we saying that it's only diaspora and it's now excessively, out of, Africa per se? And what about the other countries which we are opening new missions and diplomatic presence? Then there's also the issue to do with what is the scope of engagement?
Yes.
Are we looking at it and saying it's going to be a fair basis? Because if you are in Kuwait and you're in Saudi Arabia and you're a house girl there, are you going to be given the same level of attention as someone who is actually remitting, some level of income from Australia or from, UK or US? But most importantly, and what Prof has said that I think needs urgent attention, is the discriminatory visa regime that we have seen Kenyans being accustomed to other countries, and Kenya is not reciprocating
There's a
the same.
serious delay in the process.
Ideally, you expect reciprocity between countries, so that the same level of requirements a country is putting is the same level of requirements they're getting. So we are seeing a very big imbalance in that kind of engagement, whereby Kenyans going to a particular country, you have some countries which even demand almost close to 21 requirements. But when those citizens of those countries are coming to Kenya, it is almost a drop in the ocean. And we're asking, I think, the new appointed CS of Foreign Affairs needs to look at that issue in terms of dignity of Kenyans at the visa level. And number two, also, even for trade, and Tobias is here, I will tell you, I mean, what is the incentives that Kenyans are given, you know, vis-a-vis what foreign investors are given?
Yes.
You know? And so those are the issues that we're looking at. That space has to provide a level of dignity and a level of also justice and equity. And most importantly, now to capacitate our embassies. We don't need to be raising money to get our girls back from Saudi Arabia every now and then. I think that needs to be addressed very well in that space, especially in Middle East. And that is something which the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Parliament, and Ministry of Labor needs to look at and say, how are we going to provide dignity for our children?
Before I come back to Tobias, let me just get back to Prof again. Prof, Kenyans in the diaspora play a key role in terms of remittances, something that we all aware of. And that figure sometimes can go up or drop depending on the situation on the ground. But then, how is Kenya being perceived out there now that elections are over and we have got a new president in office? Prof, my question to you is, what is the stand of Kenya globally now that we are through with the elections and we have got new regime in place already? All right, I think we are getting back to Prof in the States shortly. Tobias, the issue of remittance, and this is a very big issue, which really, sometimes you look at those figures. It's either depending on the situation, either the dollar rate or the stability in a particular country, for example, in Kenya or those other countries. How is it going to be that the manufacturing aspect and Kenyans in the diaspora, how are you going to have that, how are you going to gel to bring that collegiality in terms of the productivity, in terms of remittance, and the general productivity in service delivery in country, in Kenya?
I must say, I think the president's economic team must have reviewed and assessed and saw the remittance that is coming from the diaspora, and they thought it wise that we need to establish mechanism where we address the needs of this diaspora citizen. But in terms of linking the diaspora citizen and the manufacturing sector, one of the things we want to encourage and promote is investment in the manufacturing sector. An investment could be direct investment in the manufacturing sector, where we inform them and we are able to show them what they can produce or what they can manufacture here, indirectly or directly. So most of them I know will do indirect investment in terms of shares and bonds in specific manufacturing plant, and we want to encourage that where we've seen a manufacturing plant that is company that is doing well and they're listing themselves in the NSC in terms of buying shares and investing in it, we encourage the diaspora to invest in our local manufacturers.
Okay. Edward, is there a magic wand or that magic rod that the president will have to use quick fixes in his administration within 100 days so that we can go back and say, okay, here we are. 100 days later, this is the result?
Yes, I think the president has that capacity. He's been in parliament for over 10 years. He's been in cabinet, for over 10 years, so he's not a stranger in these spaces. Yes. He has historical memory, and you talk to those close to him, they will tell you he has an acute understanding of the policy gaps that are there, and he has the wherewithal, to actually effect a number of changes. What I think will be important is the team that will come to him and support him, because we have seen situations whereby you have a president who has a lot of goodwill, but the delivery and execution tends to have a problem. And because the president has an oversight of other issues, you'll find that at the implementation level there are challenges and blockages. And so that's why we pray for wisdom, that he will have a team that will be able to carry his vision, carry his charisma and his energy, and realize that there is a lot at stake. For a president who is coming in at that age, in a continent whereby the average age of presidents is almost 20 years above him, there's a lot at stake for him to give confidence that actually it can be done. And it's not about an age issue. It is about an execution issue. And I think looking at the kind of campaign that he's actually executed and coming towards his victory, we hope that we can be able to benefit, the country will benefit from that level of precision and strategic thinking. And we hope that also he's able now to rally his troops, because he also has a sizable, victory in parliament. And that is important, because all these things that he's putting in his manifesto will require working in terms of that parliament. And ensuring that the House committees are able to analyze those bills, encourage public participation, and ensure that public participation is not just an endorsement for passing. It's about also getting views and enriching that legal document and the act, so that when it's coming out, it is richer. And so I think the kind of coordination he'll have with the chairs of the various committees in Parliament, and also working together with industry and the various state agencies to ensure that there is a cohesion and one team. It is one team, it is one fight, it is one Kenya, it is one victory.
Somebody said that it's going to be a bit difficult for you to work in President Ruto's regime, because he's an early riser and he's an achiever, an ambitious gentleman. So if you are in that cabinet, be ready. All right, so let's cross over back to the United States, and Prof is still there. Prof, before we lost it there, the question is, what is the Kenya's national or international standing now that we have got a new regime in office?
Can you repeat that again?
What is the Kenya's image out there? We had a peaceful transition of power yesterday, and we have got a new office bearer. What is the image of Kenya globally?
No, it is wonderful. What our people have done is impressive. All we can do is celebrate. You have set the bar very high, and we are proud of each and every person. So we just hope that, we've been watching, we've been praying, and everybody has been following. So again, kudos to our wonderful people of Kenya, to our leaders, to every participant, every contestant. You have done an amazing job. The young people together, and we're also doing it together here in Diaspora. We're working together as a community, and we are coming together and realizing. In fact, our theme at the KESA conference was professionalism and moving our country forward, because we knew that as we met last week, that was a very tough time. There were a lot of tensions, but we were able to maturely come together as scholars and students and to say, hey, we need all hands on deck. We need everybody on board, and we are ready to roll. And so this was good news when His Excellency shared today that he is ready to bring us on board. In fact, if you look at Diaspora social media platforms, that is the entire conversation that is going on as to how are we going to be engaged? How are we going to be involved? So yes, we continue to be ambassadors in the US. We continue to be ambassadors all over Diaspora. In Africa, wherever Kenyans are, we are, like I said, we are very vibrant, we're active, we're very, we love our country, and we do whatever we can do to serve our country. We just pray that we're given those opportunities so we can bring our talents back home and contribute to nation building, because you send us abroad, right? You send us out of Kenya, you spend your monies and your time, but now we want to come back and pay forward. We want to come back and pay back. So we just eager to serve. We're eager to work with the different entities, different governments at the county level, at the national level, with the education systems. We're here to serve. We're here to pay back.
All right. Prof, the president talked about CBC, and now that you're a professor in line of education, let's just play this clip, what the president said yesterday, and I'd love you to give me your insight based on that.
There is a robust conversation, ladies and gentlemen, in the country on education, and in particular, the implementation of CBC curriculum. Public participation is critical in this matter. I will establish an education reform task force in the presidency, which will be launched in the coming weeks. It will collect views from all players in line with the demand of public participation, and we are particularly alive to the anxieties of parents on the twin transition of the last 844 class and the first CBC class in January next year. I assure all that there will be a solution to the matter before then.
Prof, the president said that he's going to form a task force in the office of the president to look into the issue of CBC. What is your take?
Yes, that is a great comment. I was actually in Kenya for 2 months in June and July. And like I said from the beginning, CBC is an American system. My kids have gone through that. Our children have gone through that. So we've been there. We've done that. We've been very involved as parents. And it just broke my heart to see what was going on in Kenya. I went to schools. I spoke Kenya High. I went to several schools and spoke to students and spoke to teachers. And I see the frustration where there's this group that is getting ready to go to college, and they don't have the facilities. I have many friends who are principals, who are head teachers, who are classmates, and I visited their schools, and I could see the stress. We had those conversations. So what happened is this CBC was rolled on without the stakeholders' involvement. That is a practice here in developed countries. Before you roll out any curriculum, you want to engage all the stakeholders. You want to talk to the students. You want to talk to the teachers. You want to make sure you have the resources. You want to make sure that the faculty, the teachers are trained. But in this case, it looks like that did not happen. So therefore, you're pushing kids. There are no resources. They don't have. How do you tell a kid in the village to go swimming? Yeah, I don't know if you saw the video that was going on in social media, kids just swimming on the floor. It breaks my heart to see that we are not preparing these children to succeed. We're not preparing all children to succeed. So I'm really excited to hear that. Like again, I said, most of our faculty, most of our Kenya Diaspora scholars, we were in Kenya in the summer to work with institutions that needed help. We some of us trained with help to teachers in professional development, preparing them. So this is what should have been done from the beginning. So we welcome this and I applaud His Excellency President for doing what should have been done. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it's our children who are suffering, and it's no wonder most of this government officials, these big people, they have their children are not in the CBC system. Their children are in the American system. Their children are in the British system. Why? Because this system is not functional. So therefore, it needs to be fixed because our children suffer. Our teachers are not prepared. They don't have the resources. So this is a big time. There's a big need. And like I said, the diaspora, we are ready to help. You call me, like I said, I'm the president of the Kenya Scholars Studies Association. You call me and tell me you need somebody in chemistry and physics, I will get you that person right now. We have our organization, we're very tight, we've been in place for 15 years. So we are ready to help. We have our students who can come back to Kenya as interns. We have worked with the ministry. We have worked with HOPE to see how we can develop internship opportunities so that our students can come back to Kenya in the summer and help and assist. We have submitted a proposal called the Kenya Diaspora Fellowship that is a replica of the Carnegie Fellowship that we actually submitted it to His Excellency President Uhuru, but they did not budget it. The same issues with the students who need help loans. So yes, we are here. We are here to be a solution. We welcome that. That is needed. We are first-hand experience with CBC here in the United States. I've been here for 22 years, and I know exactly how it should work.
All right. Professor Gerono Phyllis Rotich, thank you so much for talking to us all the way from the United States of America. We value your insights and hope that you'll come back home and give us your opinion. Kongoi, is that what you say? Yes. Or you forgotten the language?
I'll come tomorrow if I get. I will. All of us will come back tomorrow if you need. Like not just me, but all of us. We want to help.
Right.
We want to build our.
Karibu, rudi nyumbani.
We'll sing.
Thank you. All right. That is Professor Gerono Phyllis, all the way from the United States. She's also giving us an idea on what's. Let me get to your point, Tobias. She's talked about the issue of CBC. The president said that there's that committee that is going to be formed in the office of the president to look into it, and because there's that transition bit, coming in early January next year, something has to be done.
Correct. And I must say the president did not just speak about CBC for the sake of it. When they were doing campaigns, they moved from one county, one district to district, holding meetings with the citizen, and one of the feedback was on this CBC, and therefore it is wise of him to create an education reform tax.
Do you think it should be disbanded?
No, not disbanded, but it should be reviewed in terms of how can we implement it in this context of our country. Because if you look at it currently, the issues that are being raised about the cost of CBC, the fees the parents are paying, the books the parents are buying, the infrastructure for the CBC. A student in Nairobi doing the same course and doing the same activities related to CBC cannot be compared to a student probably in a remote village in Turkana. So it is unfair in that context. The issues of teacher-student ratio also needs to be addressed critically. The issue of the capacity of even the teachers to adopt and implement the CBC needs to be addressed. There's also the issue of funding. Funding for the schools to implement CBC. We've also had a case where publishers who have published books for CBC have not been paid.
Oh my God.
Almost 4 billion is pending in terms of payment to the publishers. So there's a lot of needs to be addressed for CBC to work, and I think the president was wise to say that he's come up with the tax.
Before we continue, Edward, let's take a break. My director is asking, why is it that anytime you go for a break, it's on your turn? He doesn't understand why, but anyway, let's take a break. When we come back, Edward, you're also going to chime in on that bit. But one important thing that we should not miss: over 20 heads of state were present yesterday. I know this is something quite close to Edward's heart on international matters and what Kenya has to achieve and benefit from that. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more.
It's time to reset, restart, reskill, and talk about health matters. Wake up, eat healthy, and keep fit. And together with our health experts, we'll be helping you understand health conditions and terminologies.
PCOS, as you said, is a very long name. First of all, if you can break it down, it's poly, and then cystic, and then syndrome.
Join me, Mariambo, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on Your Health, only on KBC Channel 1.
Uoni hizi kelele zako ndo zinafanya mtoto anaumia? Au mpaka Dr. Zero akwambie ndo uelewe?
Sitaki kumwona Casey nyumbani kwangu. Period.
It's going to be okay very soon. We'll be happy, I promise. Not too soon. Hapa kuna furaha.
Mimi ananihusu hiyo kahindi.
But don't you think I deserve this?
But you're spending too much, Zari.
Dr. Zero, she says she wants to help me.
Today, I want to show them my attitude today. Ya bwana, ni chuo kikuu cha burudani, mashavu.
Sifika bei umechapa. Kitaume umejaa utahata. Nyumbani kaumbea.
Burudani.
Twende tukacheze bango. Mama it takes two to tango.
Na interview kali kutoka Pwani.
Kucheza nawe. Baby nimechizi nawe.
Na ukitaka tuiwashe leo.
Bwana, kila siku ya Friday ama Ijumaa ukipenda saa 3 hadi saa 6 kamili.
Nafanya kama unacheza isoko.
Kumbuka hashtag Masha. Nyumbani kwa burudani. Usikose tegea show kali tokea Pwani.
All right, welcome back. Edward, before we took a break, it was still the issue of CBC and the diaspora, engagements and contribution to the country. Let me just get your voice on the issue of CBC. We all went through the 844 system, but it seems that a majority of Kenyans, from grandparents to fathers to everybody, is back to class together with their kids. CBC.
I think my thinking is that we need to really critically have a conversation in the country around the philosophy around education. And the philosophy around education needs to be anchored on a number of realities based on where we are as a country. One of the issues that for me I find a challenge is as the prof said, the contestation between resources for a curriculum and a new system vis-a-vis the readiness that we had. So you want to roll out a new curriculum, you've not been able to bring the teachers up to speed, you've not been able to conscientize, the learners on what is requirement, and it's just rolling out for the sake of rolling out. But also, most importantly, look at this conversation around pathways on CBC. And you're saying, for example, sports pathway. And look at how much we're investing in our sports. How many athletes are leaving the country, going outside there to other countries and taking citizenship of other countries because they are frustrated. Look at the case that happened with Omanyala being frustrated, Is that incentive enough for you to be actually a sports person in this country? They're saying that there's a sports talent direction.
Yes.
But look at what happens in the practical. Look at our musicians and the kind of frustrations they get in terms of getting their royalties. And you're saying here in CBC we'll give a pathway for music and talent. Our artists who are, for example, in the performing arts space, and how they have to compete with other artists in other countries because they're not getting the level of support from the country. Theaters have been taken over, social halls are no longer there. So what pathway are we preparing these people for when the country is not yet ready to sort out that space? And that is the challenge in terms of creating and pegging a curriculum when the infrastructure is not yet ready. And that's why you will go to what the prof is saying, brain drain will happen, because parents who feel frustrated will take their children to other curriculums. But then what happens to those parents who are not able to have a switch? And so I think I laud the president for making it an opportunity for public participation. But I think it is more than just the transition. It is also to do with the philosophy that we are trying to bring out in terms of who are we educating, and is the country ready to absorb that person when they come out? That is, for me, very important. Otherwise, we will have very many frustrated people because they say, I pursued this pathway, but the country is not yet ready for me. And that is what we're going to have, more frustrated people, because you first of all go through a curriculum that has been implemented not in a good way, but at the same time, the end goal or the final exit is not yet well organized to receive you. Yet the promise initially was that CBC will address these challenges. Because you're saying that, okay, it will churn out innovators and entrepreneurs, but how much are we putting in terms of innovation? In terms of the country, how much support are we putting to our entrepreneurs? So those are the dynamics. I think we need to look at it from an end-to-end perspective, and not just the immediate.
All right. Well, let's cross over to Washington Ogaga, who is in the United Kingdom, to give us his insight as well as a Kenyan living in the diaspora. He's a Kenyan by birth, by right, and everything else, but now he is out there. Washington, good morning. I don't know what's the time right now in the UK. First of all, I know the entire London is morning. What is your take on what happened yesterday, Washington?
Good morning. I'm speaking to you from Greenwich, London. That is the home of the Greenwich Mean Time. If you know where longitude 0 lies, that is where I am at the moment. It is actually 6:39. So
6:39, right.
You are 2 hours ahead, and that is summertime. I will quickly start by congratulating Kenyans for actually conducting themselves with decorum during the elections, with the tolerance and the patience that they had, even as the results took a bit of time to come out. And also to congratulate the new president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. Again, like you rightly mentioned, that we are in a period of mourning. We are mourning Her Majesty the Queen of England. But the good thing is we already have a king in place. So really nothing is lost. But I will quickly go to the point. Now, the president has a lot of stuff to do. His interest is definitely full. I'm sure he is well aware of that, because Kenyans are desperately in need. As a diasporian, or as somebody who lives in diaspora, we have a lot of expectations. I'm sure it might not be met right now, but some of the things that we expect this government to do for us, or to do on our behalf, is to ensure that at least we have a voice, or rather representation. It may not be something that, it may not be a quick fix. I know, because we are widespread all over the world. Like we are quite a number of us in the United Kingdom. We have so many others in the US. We also have quite a number in the continent, I mean Europe, and also other parts of the world. So representation may not be very easy to quite achieve. But somehow, if we engage like we now do, we can come up with a quick way of getting the best or the most effective way to have us represented and our voices heard. We are very resourceful in terms of ideas, and for that reason, if his government is seriously wants to involve us, then we can pump in practical ideas that will help them in even job creation, even at micro scale or at micro levels in the devolved units. The other thing that I would request that government, or what I expect of them, is that they should have or give an enabling environment for the devolved units or for the local governments to work with us in the diaspora without red tapes. I mean bureaucracy.
Yes.
Because you will find sometimes we have resources that are probably donated, for example, to those units directly.
Yes, and in fact, Washington, if I got it right, the president said that he's going to form a ministry to look into the issue of diaspora.
Yes, I think that's a very good first step, and hopefully, because if I can delve into that, we've always had a lot of challenges when it comes to us diasporans investing at home. Reason being that a lot of times we are taken advantage of, especially when we are doing things from far. And it is important that he is recognized that, because the remittances that we send home is quite a good chunk. It's about nearly 40 billion, according to the 2020 reports that came up. So that is a good chunk. It's almost I would call it almost GDP of given devolved units, or rather governments like Busia, for example. In 2020, if you sum up what they got from 2013 all the way to 2020, what we are remitting, which is 40 billion, it's equivalent to that. So it's quite something. So if they manage to come up with a ministry that is responsible for taking care of our needs or our concerns, then I think that would be great. We are yet to see that, and really we would want to engage with this government so that we can see how to make that ministry function.
Okay, Washington, you once ran for a political Homa Bay town, and so by all means you are a politician and you understand the Kenyan politics pretty well. So what should be the balance of trade between Kenya and the UK? And politically speaking, how would you strike the balance between trade between these two countries and politics?
The relationship between the United Kingdom and Kenya is a special one. As you know, we are one of the most important economies in East and Central Africa, and being that we are former colonies of United Kingdom and also trade partners.
Yes,
it is key that we ensure that relationship continues. We know that we are in a world that is changing very fast, and that sometimes it's forcing them to look east. But it is also very important that we ensure that the trade between us and Kenya is maintained. So Kenya is important, especially in now, the way it's positioning itself. You can see a number of countries joining in the bloc of the East African community. For example, Congo, which is quite rich in minerals. And because they've been in solitude, it's been exploited a lot. We don't want to name countries that are doing that, but we know very well that some of us who are actually, in our little ways, we've been trying to reach out to the government of the United Kingdom to look for ways of working around the kind of exploitation that is going on in some of those countries. And when we realized that DRC, for example, is joining East African community, which I thought was a job well done by the outgoing president, President Kenyatta, to work to incorporate them, that was one way of helping them or to reduce the exploitation. so that those minerals can be processed at source, and that one in itself is adding value before they are finally sold. But if they are sold when they are still raw, or rather taken as they are, then whatever goes down or trickles down to people who are working hard in those mines, for example, is not worthwhile. So this is where Britain comes in, because as they are, they posture themselves as a country that is now, above board, and is working so hard to ensure that those imperialist kind of the attitude that they had is now different, but is relating to countries like Kenya as equals, and that is something that we need to exploit. I don't know if I'm hitting your point as you expected, but I'm sure you can catch my drift.
30 seconds before I let you go. The same question I asked. Yeah, the same question I asked Professor in the United States. So, what is the Kenya's image globally after the election?
Oh yes, I can tell you that the elections, according to the way people look at Kenya from here, Kenya has proven itself as a country that can conduct itself properly during elections. As you know, most of the time, the media, especially the foreign media, a lot of the times they would associate it with the violence and activities that are not quite civilized. The way we conducted ourselves in the elections was very mature, and it has proven to them that we can do better. So for that reason, it is highly respected. So we can walk with our heads high that we have a country that is, because democracy is something that is maturing. It is never completely mature. So because even in the developed world, they still have challenges. But what we exhibited in Kenya during the last elections, the way we conducted ourselves, the tolerance and the patience that we had, even when those challenges were there, is showing that we've actually come of age, and it's put us at a very high pedestal in East Africa. I don't think that there is any other country, probably Ghana. So we are at that high level at the international stage. So we really need to keep up, and also ask the agencies, or rather the government agencies concerned, to maintain that. And we would also request the government also to ensure that those agencies or those government bodies are actually as independent as possible going forward.
All right. Washington Ogaga, Kenyan living the diaspora in England. Thank you so much for your time. Someone is asking me whether you still understand Luo. Do you?
I understand Luo very well.
How do you say good morning, Kenyans, from wherever you are watching from?
Oya ore urainya juthurwa madala awuyo kudukan British United Kingdom.
All right, Washington Ogaga, thank you so much, and please send regards to all Kenyans living in the diaspora. We miss them and we wish you all the best. Thank you for your time.
We'll be in constant touch, especially on such matters.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Victor.
Thank you. All right. That is Washington Ogaga, Kenyan living in the diaspora, giving us his perspective on what we should expect moving forward, and even their voices. From what we've heard from Professor and Washington, Kenya stands a very good point. Edward, internationally speaking.
Yes, I think our rating has once again been reaffirmed. I was happy yesterday to see the chairman of the Africa Union, Musa Faki Mahamat, among the dignitaries that were in the country. There were many delegations.
What has the Aliko Dangote was in the country?
Yes.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, and there were lots of delegations which came from ECOWAS, from COMESA, from SADC. just to reaffirm Kenya's space and our position in the global space, and I see a resurgence in terms of our engagements and looking at the kind of delegations that were coming in. I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has its work cut out.
A lot of work to do.
You know, because they have to translate the ambitions of these delegations into workable programs and cooperation frameworks. And then now from there, move them to the respective line ministries to ensure now they are executed, you know. And I feel that it's a momentous opportunity to translate that, because our foreign policy is anchored on commercial diplomacy, and that means that we move in spaces of bilateral trade talks. We move into spaces of cooperation and working that also has economic advantages for the country. And so for me, I think this is important to see how there will be a whole of government thinking around the commercial diplomacy and the kind of trade and business incentives that we'll have, so that we do not lose our standing. And I think it's important because there are certain projects that were earmarked. For example, the opening up of the launch of the Nairobi International Trade Center, the Nairobi International Financial Center. There are spaces which we can be able to use to grow our age as a fintech hub, as a blue economy hub, as a space for even our tourism product to be much more improved and enhanced. We cannot, with climate change and the drought situation happening, we will not just be selling green and parks that alone. We need to sell, industrial parks as the next frontier.
But even after seeing all those dignitaries coming to the country, it means that there's a lot of pressure for us as a country, and it's a challenge to us moving forward, that the leaps that we've made do not go into waste.
Exactly, and that's where your accounting officers, your permanent secretaries come into play. That's where your treasury supports the ministry ambitions to deliver and to secure the gain. It's like football. You need to have your defense working together with your midfield to ensure.
Like Arsenal.
Well, I won't go there, but ideally, you want to have no kind of goals coming in, but you're scoring at that level. So your permanent secretaries, your director generals in the ministries, they will play a crucial role in ensuring that whatever ambitions and goodwill is there is translated into government policy, into give good programs, into cooperation frameworks with the local embassies that are here to enhance trade. And I'm seeing our space, and I'm keen to see how President Ruto will be addressing the Africa Union in the next Heads of State Summit coming up in January. And of course, he will start with the global stage in terms of the oncoming, in the next 2 weeks, the United Nations General Assembly. I'm hoping that he will be able to address the global stage at that level and set Kenya's tone in saying we are open for business and we want to be able to deliver on our commitments as a country, and we are an anchor state in this region.
Remember what President Suluhu said, that the biggest gift Kenyans give East Africa and the world at large is to have a peaceful election.
Yes, and the transition for that matter.
Okay, Tobias, before we continue, let's get to something that is quite close to your heart. The President said that the reversal of the port operations from Naivasha back to Mombasa.
Correct.
All right? Okay, break it down for me.
So the port cargo decree has advantages and disadvantages. In one aspect of it, the initial reason why the directive was there is to enable SGR work and HCR to raise funds to pay the loans that we do have in regards to the construction of the SGR. So that was the directive to enable cargo move from the port through SGR to the Naivasha port. However, based on the feedback and the complaint from our county in Mombasa, the economy of Mombasa was indeed affected because a lot of container freight stations were closed down. A lot of people lost their jobs.
How bad was it?
It was really bad. It was really bad. If you have grown in Mombasa, like I have grown in Mombasa, and visiting Mombasa after a few years when this directive came into place, a lot of people have moved, a lot of businesses have moved out or closed down because the major economy of Mombasa was directly attached to the port. So if that business of the port of clearing of cargo is removed, then they do not have other options in terms of sustaining the economy. Now, this directive is going to have a couple of issues in terms of, one, competitive pricing.
Yes.
Now it gives you an option. We are still waiting for the guidelines, but I believe it will give you an option if you want to use the SGR or if you want to use the transport. So one, it will give us a competitive pricing between the trucks and SGR.
Yes.
Number two, of course, alternative. Number two, it will be good for the economy of Mombasa, because now the businesses that were directly linked with port clearance will come back to life. It will be good for the transporters and the CFS, the container freight stations based in Mombasa. There are people who had invested in go downs in Mombasa.
Yes.
There are people who had invested in trucks in Mombasa.
But don't you think it should be done in a certain way that the port of the ICD and the port of Mombasa are almost at par, so that there is no complete transfer or reversal of the operations back to Mombasa?
Yes, actually, it should have been optional. The directive should not be, this is the only way you need to transport your cargo. It should have been optional. Give the people options. Then you weigh the option. That will create competitiveness and it will reduce the cost of transportation of goods. The other advantage would be port door delivery.
Yes.
Because now, once your cargo lands, your truck will pick it from the ship and directly to your door in terms of factory. But as it stands right now, because of the directive, we have what we call the last mile mechanism, where it lands at the ICD, then you organize for a truck to deliver it to you. Okay, there is an issue about time, because it takes a short time to deliver by truck, by rail, but there is another lapse of time between the ICD Naivasha or ICD Embakasi to your respective factory. So that needs to be addressed. The disadvantages that I see is in terms of it's going to be a threat to the SGR. Of course, there is a loan that needs to be paid, and because of the loan, the government needs to find alternative of raising the funds. Number two, it may lead to port congestion if mechanisms are not put in place in regards to clearance of cargo. The dwell time of containers at the port of Mombasa will increase, again leading to congestion, because as it stands right now, the ship lands, they're put in the SGR and they're railed out of the port. So it reduces port congestions. So that needs to be addressed. The last point is we are currently paying government levy. So the question is, will that still apply?
Will that still apply?
Will we still be taxed the railway development levy for every import? Now that you have chosen an option, you have an option of not choosing the railway.
Okay.
Will that tax still be there?
Okay.
That's a question.
I want to come back and take your last round of closing remarks. Again, we are taking a break after you. We'll be right back after this.
Honestly, I didn't even know that Osvaldo was here. It was a complete surprise to me to find him here at the hotel.
We were supposed to meet here in order to get to know each other again and to open up to each other. And now you hide this from me?
He stole your heart and stole my hope of having you by my side. Grandma, why didn't you announce yourself? Why did you just barge in?
So that's why I'm begging you. Please don't look for me again. Please don't ever come near me. Just pretend that I don't exist. If I have to resign, I will, because I don't want to lose my daughter.
Thought I'd react like this. Oh! I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Walimu na wanafunzi mpo. KBC Channel 1 inakutoa darasani na kukuleta jukwani ili upate kuaminika.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kuwakariria shairi kwa kichwa.
Kuelimika.
Udhui gani ya lugha yanayojitokeza katika kauli hii ukirejelea mataifa mengi barani Afrika?
Na kisha uburudike.
Moja ni fahari yetu, baba, kina mama na watoto.
Sauti za njiwa tamu sana.
Sanaa ya Kiswahili, elimu na maarifa bila mipaka, kila Jumapili saa 7:30 papa hapa KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. Now we are almost coming to the tail end of this discussion, and before then, let's have Hamisi Mboga, who's been holding online for quite some time. Hamisi, we've had, that 360-degree coverage all the way from States to the UK and back to Nairobi. I don't know, what is your take in terms of the issue of reversal, the issue of taking back the operations of port from Naivasha, Embakasi back to Mombasa, as a governance expert? Hamisi.
Thank you very much. I think this is a good subject to be discussed, and it has a lot of implications. One thing we must also be told, maybe some of us don't have, what went to Naivasha? What was taken there? What cannot be done in Embakasi and what cannot be done at Mombasa? Those are the issues that can be discussed, and I think what was missed was participation of the stakeholders of these port operations. So we need to quickly go back there, and let's not do it in a hurry. Let's look at what are the pros and cons about the movement. What will happen in the port is the depot, actually, the place is not a port because the port is here. What are the functions that are there, and how can they be done based ways? And then there's the implication of the movement in terms of transport. What my friend said earlier was correct, because when we introduced that every container must be carried by SGR, then we should have really consulted, worked with people. What would be the implication of doing that? What would be the implication of those people employed by transporters that transport themselves and also the vehicles? The other implication is the roads. The road network was so congested one time. If you went to Nairobi by road, you would spare some more hours because you may not reach at the time that you think. What is the status of our roads, even if you bring the transport back? And then the other thing is there another alternative for the SGR if they start transporting the cargo to Nairobi or even to Naivasha? Looking at the traffic of people moving from the town of Mombasa to Nairobi and others, there is always congestion in the train, in the bus. Can we increase passenger transport if you reduce the cargo? But also the state of the vehicles that they're transporting. There were so many accidents during that time before the SGR comes up, and also the speed and the time, like my friends have said. So yes, let's bring back those facilities, but let's address those issues that were making the transport system, they're making the business system, they're making people lose jobs. We address those very quickly, because if we address one and we leave the other, we shall still come back to the... Why don't we have a quick conference of how best can we transport our goods when they land in Mombasa? What goods go to Nairobi? What goods go to Naivasha? One time there was a paper to say we have a dry port at Voi. What happened to it? What would be the advantage of moving? The concept was to reduce the congestion from the port. The moment the ship lands, let's empty it, and then those containers that will go to up country, first stop should be Voi, where we have enough space so that they can be sorted out, so that we reduce the congestion in Mombasa. So there are so many issues when you're looking at this. And let's not do it very quickly. It may create, you solve one problem and you create another. But yes, employment should come back to be able to assist the people who used to benefit from it. And other alternative employment system must be also encouraged. People must be encouraged to buy heavy, well-equipped vehicles to be able to transport their goods. Because if my goods are going to Nyeri, you don't have to go to Naivasha. If my goods are in Nairobi, how are they moving from Nairobi to Nanyuki, where the owner of the goods are? All these are logistics that must be considered properly, stakeholders involved, agreement reached, and then we have to find a way. We don't have to force, and because we want to pay SGR. SGR, when it is planned, there must have been a way of saying, how are we going to pay for it? So let's encourage a dialogue and all these things, but I think it's a good idea to be able to bring the port back, port facility, port operations. And it's not the port, because some people are confusing. Somebody was telling me, my grandmother said, sasa hiyo maji mnapeleka Naivasha, tutakunywa nini? We're not sending that sea there. We're not sending the port there. It's some of the operations, especially on transport issues of the goods. So these are the things that must be done. So the president and his team must move very quickly. People are worried in Mombasa that all the time we have been here, and the residents around are not finding jobs, but we find our other colleagues from some other country finding jobs. You know, there are many issues. If you look at the local base, let's address this. For a long time, Kenya Ports Authority has not employed people for a long time. What is happening? So these are some of the issues that are coming here. People are anxious, especially in Mombasa. It was a promise by the president that things will come back. What things are coming back? How are they coming back? How will they benefit the local people? How many will benefit? These are some of the things that can be explained properly, so that even if you don't get a job today, you know there's a possibility of getting a job. So you don't have to be in a hurry. This is an issue, and it has implications. And we are watching to advise. I don't know if I can, I had forgotten something about county governments. Can I clock it in here for half a minute?
Abisi, thank you for your point. I'm afraid we are running out of time. That is Amisi Boga, governance expert, talking to us all the way from Mombasa. We'll have you back on the show soon, so please, thank you for that. Gentlemen, we are running out of time. I want to give you 1 minute each to maliza hii maneno. My director is already on the floor. Tafukuzwa. Starting with you, yes. Tobias, what's your final take?
My final take is that the president has what it takes to drive the country to where it needs to go. As a representative of the manufacturing sector, we would urge that he makes manufacturing a priority because it has the ability and possibility of creating employment and starting economic growth in this country. Lastly, I would also urge the president to put governance and accountability as a priority agenda. Based on the previous governments, we've had concerns, we've had failures, we've had opportunities. I would pray that this government will also put governance and accountability as a priority.
All right.
Otherwise, we wish them well.
Thank you so much. Edward, as your closing remarks, what would be how do you examine the presidency of up till the 2022-2027 from the strategic lens?
I think for me it is a period that the country needs to get itself out of the election mode and now focus on moving forward. We look forward to the reorganization of government and the various ways in which governments will work together at the county level and at the national level to ensure that we can be able to address the tight space that we are in, as a country economically. And finally, I'd like to also to see a situation whereby, there is dignity for all citizens. And that dignity is important when we are looking at how we as Kenyans will show up in our various spaces of work and in delivering our obligations as Africans, as Kenyans, as professionals.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. You're the first guest that we've had with the show in the new government, so you have all the blessings.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
So to speak, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
I will be speaking to Tobias Alando, who is the acting CEO of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We wish you all the best. You have got a lot of work to do in the coming regime, as well as Edward Wanyonyi, who is International Development and Communication Strategy and an expert. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming over the show. All right, so later on in the morning, maybe toward the day, the president will be swearing in the 6 judges. Let me give you their names. We have got Agre Muchelule, Weldon Korir, George Odunga, Joel Ngugi, Evans Makori, and finally Elizabeth Omange. We'll be waiting to see how that will happen. We'll give you that live feed live from State House. But for now, thank you so much for watching. My name is Victor Lowe. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Ni aje tiri.
Speaker.
Wajohi amerara.
Mbona leo kuna furaha hivyo? I'm just tired of being mad at everyone around me.
I can see you making us breakfast.
If me being in the country and back in your lives doesn't surprise you, then nothing I do ever will.
Who died? Whiskey.
Your mom has refused to age.
Yaani nyinyi kuispapa ni kama mnasengenya watu. Hiyo ndio kazi mwaleta
Len is not around.
Hello, my dear.
Sitaki kusikia umekuja hapa na pombe.
Inakuwaka kwa mwili.
Welcome back. Exactly 16 minutes past 9 a.m. Time for us to move to the next conversation. Still on Matters Politics Viewpoint. Right now we look at women in leadership. And yes, a lot has been said in respect to women. And if you really had the president's speech yesterday, women are said to benefit a lot with ensuring that the 2/3 gender rule comes to fruition. Take a look.
To the 2/3 gender rule as enshrined in our constitution. We will work with Parliament to fast track various legislative proposals and establish a framework that will resolve this matter expeditiously, as I promised in our manifesto. The participation of women in our governance does not make us lesser, it makes us greater. And their role can no longer be nominal, it must be substantive.
The president's speech, part of it actually of yesterday, really just talking about the 2/3 gender rule, which has been a mirage since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. And now I'm joined in by my guest, Honorable Donya Aburi, who is the KC Women Representative. Karibu sana to the program, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much.
Just listening to the president yesterday, I mean, your quick thoughts on that, the 2/3 gender rule, women leadership.
First of all, as you've said, I'm Donya, woman rep on Wiper ticket from Kisii County. The 2/3 gender rule, if I can be sincere and tell you, it has not been achieved in the entire world. If we can give accolade to Rwanda, they've tried, they've achieved 61%. When we come to Kenya, we are at to 21%. And the major reason why it will take like 130 years, that is as per Donya, we go through a lot of challenges during elections. Unless this is dealt with properly, then it is something that has time to be achieved. Yes.
130 years?
Yes, I'm telling you, because we are in 2022, we are at 11 to 21%. Assuming we started dealing with this thing, when did women go to Beijing? Probably 30 years ago. So if we've achieved 11 to 21, how long will it take for us even to be at 50%? Yeah.
But I mean, looking at the progress therein, just dating it back since we got our new constitution in 2010, 2013 we had 0 governors, so to speak. 2017 we had 3. Now we have 7. And can we even talk about the senators and you know, members of National Assembly that have equally gone to that position? So talk about 130 years. Much as yes, you're giving us the figures and statistics, don't you think that this is really a far long time given some of the achievements that we've made so far?
When you are counting the 2/3, don't even remember the women rep seat, because that is a guarantee, it is for women.
Sure.
Do you know there are men who are asking if they can contest for women rep?
For men rep?
Yeah, now they were asking what bars me as a man from contesting for women rep. So that can give you an answer that these are easy seats for us. They are set aside for women. Men are not contesting.
Yeah.
Now I want you to see how many women governors do we have? How many women senators do we have? And then give it a percentage. That will tell you we have between 100 and 130 years to achieve the 50%.
But let's come to the practicability of things. And yes, you've had the president talking about ensuring that that is met. And largely, this is also what featured in the Women's Charter when he unveiled it in June, just sort of like a month and some weeks to the election. And the question still remains on the practicability of it. Why? Because also we had the former Chief Justice David Maraga in his tenure at some point even asking the president to dissolve parliament because that hadn't been met. So quick thoughts on the practicability of this, because I mean it's one thing to talk about it, it's a different story to make it possible and implemented.
It can only be achieved if we all of us participate. Why am I telling you if we all of us participate? Do you know at workplaces, as a woman, you can tell your boss, hey, my kid is sick, I have to attend to my kid. Then you will be asked, you are not paid for what you produce at home. You are paid for what you produce at work. If all of us came together, the government, we have a lot of seminars, sensitization, that can have a good impact with what we are trying to achieve. Look like when we were doing campaigns, more of us women, we were looked down upon. You are told you don't have a good car, if you have only girls in your home, you don't have a boy, they're like, you are not yet ready to be a leader, because a leader must have a balance of a girl child and a girl boy. Finances, women, we had more challenges. Working at night, men could easily do it, which women we could not do. So if the campaign period was placed at between 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., most of us, the women candidates, we were obeying. Yeah. But when we wake up in the morning, we could be told so-and-so was dishing money at night. Men can do it because they have... they are brave enough. They know they can do it at night. So unless we tackle the women challenges, we understand what they face, that you cannot cure a disease that you don't know which is it. Yes.
Talking about tackling those women challenges, then looking again at also what the president said, and again also this has featured in that women charter that he unveiled. This was just before the election, talking about half of his cabinet comprising women, of course, and
which we are waiting, and we are praying for it. We are really, in fact, it will be a milestone for our new president-elect. If 50% will go to women, then now...
So we're talking of 11 cabinet slots out of the 22.
Yeah, out of the 22, then we, even the permanent secretaries, everything moves down like that. We will move from the 100 to 130, as I told you, to, let me say, 50 to now 60. Yeah.
How is this going to be implemented? Again, bearing in mind, and I just want to get your thoughts on this, because we have the aspect of, how would I call it? Sort of like giving back. You know, there are those that really have been with the president while he was campaigning before he got this particular seat, and there are those that are really expecting for him to just sort of like give back that hand, that I have been with you all this while, so I'm expecting something of you. We're only talking about 22 slots of cabinet, and you're already saying that 11 are going to go to women. So where does this leave all these other troops and parcels that have been there, the backdrop during the campaign? So in terms of implementing and making it possible?
Sometimes it's not all about troops. It's all about competency. Okay. I can tell you for free, Dorcas, the two ladies, Doreen, sorry, the two ladies who are deputy presidents, when they were articulating their issues during the deputy presidential debate, they proved to be somewhere. So, and one thing I know about the new president-elect is youthish. I'm sure he will do the right thing. He will consider both loyalists to those who've served him, and those who are competent enough to handle those officers, because it's not all about friendship, it's about achieving. And at this time, Kenyans are expecting more from him than even they expected from the outgoing president, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Of course, expecting more because of the promises.
Because of the promises he made, like now that one of women, we are waiting.
And you really are so much excited about it. I can clearly see.
The way he has started by approving the judges, he will be swearing them in today. It seems he's keeping his word. Yeah.
Speaking of approval of that, and this is appointment of those 6 judges, since 2019, after their nomination, they want appointment to that position of the Court of Appeal judges, given the fact that at that time, President Uhuru Kenyatta, you know, the then president, said that they hadn't really passed muster for that particular position. But really, the president has gone hands-on in that particular role, and some of them, some people just terming him as, you know, really getting his hands already in the works. So when you look at basically what transpired yesterday, what really stood out for you the most in respect to what was discussed yesterday? Because a lot of issues was conversed.
The fact that he has started acting on his promises has given us some faith, some hope. You see, if you don't have hope, Dorcas, Doreen, if you don't have hope, then you are hopeless. Now that the president-elect has started acting on what he said, starting from the port of Mombasa, coming to the prices of
fertilizers?
The prices of fertilizers, and talking about how he's going to swear in the judges today. You've not gone to the local courts and see how the cases have piled. So if he has started to ease the work of the workload at the probably county levels, because that's where each person is represented. You can't have a case in Kisii, for example, and bring it all over to Nairobi. So him having those judges and promising that there will be more magistrates, it means he has started down from the real hustlers, the ones he was talking about. Otherwise, he would have only considered maybe the courts in the cities. So that shows you that the president's promise to the hustlers are real. You can tell me fertilizers from 6,500 to 3,500, as much as some of us had planted. I know there are places who are still planting. He has brought joy to the farmers, and we now believe that we'll have plenty of food.
Talking about the issue of fertilizers, and you also mentioned Kisii County, and so far, just going from what I was able to gather, is that one key among those issues ailing that particular county includes the declining land size, depletion of soil fertility, poor yields, which are pushing Kisii from being food secure, which wasn't really the case when you look at years back and what we've had from our history. So again, when you look at that issue of fertilizers, just dropping it down from 6,500 to 3,500, and again, the question remains, when will this start? We are still waiting for that. But then
he said in 1 week's time.
In 1 week's time. Okay, fair enough. So then how does, in your own perspective, how does this push the needle further, knowing again fully well that we've really been at a time experiencing drought as a country, not enough food in this country?
I thank God you asked me about Kisii. You rarely hear of drought in Kisii. And where maybe the government has failed, I can say maybe from Kisii are the farm inputs, which are very expensive, lack of roads, because you can be planting your crops, then you realize that there's no way out. You can get them out of the farms to the markets or even to the major suppliers like schools. There are no roads. That's a major impact. In fact, in Kisii, what they need now that the prices of fertilizers have gone down is to have good roads. Majorly, that's all for us in Kisii. And in those places where they don't experience enough rain, the government has to do something. When we were young, we could see aeroplanes written Israel, Israel. I don't know if you ever saw that. Then we could ask, why are they written Israel? Then we could be told they are carrying soil from Africa to Israel, where they are going to use it to plant fruits and all kind of stuff. So it's not all about that it's not even raining. It's about how the government will partner with the Ministry of Water and make sure we have piped water. That can be achievable, because I feel sad during the drought season. We are told that we are setting aside 20 maybe million or 100 million to be used to settle people who have problems with drought. Maybe the herds are dying. That is shameful. Why? You could time, if you have not facilitated those people with piped water, the government could make arrangements and say, this is the season that we will be experiencing this and that. Then they can even carry those animals. They be slaughtered, they sell to different places here in Nairobi or even in other parts where they need it. From there, when the season is okay, people can be given money to buy now their herds instead of them dying. It's not good.
So what I'm getting from you, that it's also largely an issue of infrastructure that clearly also needs to be worked on.
Infrastructure and piping of water to those areas where they experience drought. Because we have plenty of rains. We have. We really have no reason why even Kenyans should die because of hunger. No reason at all.
And I mean, and we can really laud the president when he talked about, you know, in that 1 week's time we should be expecting that, because since the year began, we've seen a lot of cash transfers from the outgoing government just to try and salvage the situation that has been experiencing, particularly when it comes to drought, and this is the northeastern, parts of the country. So clearly, we can see that it's a good move.
Still on food. I used to be a director at Sony Sugar. We mill with very high costs of production. Then you find there is more importation to Kenya. These farmers, they've spent a lot on everything. Then there is a cheap sugar coming from out of the country. You go to the supermarkets, you find Naivas sugar, Nakumatt sugar, for example. Then you ask yourself, did they mill? Of course they didn't. That was imported to Kenya. On the issue of food, if we protected our own farmers, believe you me, Kenya is rich in food. We will feed our country and even the nearby countries. We need to put our logistics well. The president need to protect the farmers from those imports. They are really hurting. Do you know there is a day we were buying eggs from Uganda? Why are we buying eggs from Uganda? Why are we buying maize from Uganda? What is good in Uganda that cannot be good in Kenya? So the Ministry of Agriculture, the way the president has started by reducing the prices of fertilizer, he should also come in and curb food imports. Those that are unnecessary, please, we don't want. Yeah.
I mean, except curbing food imports, talk to me about also other ways that can be used to just protect. Because like that is one of those underlying issues that really affect food in this country.
Did you grow at the era of the dips? Those dips where we could kettle dips. Do you know about them?
Yes, I do.
The kettle dips. Where did they go? At the rate in which the cattle, the animals are dying, it's worrying, because those veterinary doctors who used to move around when we were growing up, we hardly see them. At this time, we could have people coming along to test the soil. I hardly hear of them because I go home. My mother has never told me that those people came or they taught them about the soil and told them that this time plant this and other, wait for another season, you plant this. I don't know if you could remember those days, though you seem young. I'm remembering. So if the government could facilitate those agricultural officers, they move around, they check our soil, they also see ways of even teaching the farmers. Very important.
Trainings?
They train them. They tell them, because there's someone who has a small farm, and you find that farmer planting maize. We have 2 seasons of maize, maybe per year we harvest twice, if I'm not wrong. So, then the agricultural officers could teach our people, instead of planting maize, plant maybe carrots, which take a short duration to be harvested, plant vegetables, so that your neighbor who has large chunks of land will sell to you maize, and you will sell to your neighbor vegetables. We continue with our, it's sort of barter trade, because if
as it were.
If we ventured into that, I can guarantee you we shall do great improvement. We will have food for our country.
And I hope the various stakeholders are listening just to try and borrow some of these things that can, at the end of the day, improve the lives of the farmers, because in turn, it actually ends up improving the lives of Kenyans.
Do you know, it's embarrassing that we still carry the 20-liter jerrycan, women, at this era. I think it's not good to our mothers. So because let me tell you, the amount of water that is used in our homes is the one that is making our mothers even to be absentees from home. All the time they are going to the river, some are trekking for long kilometers, even school-going children. If you could allow me, I have photos. I was in Kisii. When I was traveling to Nairobi, I found school-going children at around 11:30 coming from the river. That should have been class time. So if our children are doing it, they are more. If you have, if you rear, even they take a lot of water. Kama uko na kuku, paka, all those. They need water. Assuming you don't have piped water, you have to go to the river. How many rounds will you go to the river? Just to make sure that you are equipped with it. So what we need is piped water that is sustainable, not something that comes in 1 week. Then you are told for the next 3 months, we don't have water. The cartels are there. They don't want people to get piped water because they want to sell to us. So it needs the government intervention to make sure that everything goes well.
Well, I mean, there's really quite a lot we could have talked about, but I'm already seeing my director telling me that we only have 3 minutes, and I only want us to exit without talking about your role, particularly as a legislator, seeing that you're the county woman rep of Kisii County, and obviously you'll be sitting in the National Assembly. Now, when you look at the previous houses of parliament, particularly the 12th parliament, a lot has been said in respect to them not really performing their roles. Some just saying that the executive has been really usurping off of parliament in respect to what seen in terms of bills being passed. We talked about the 8% VAT in 2018. You know, there are various other issues that have come to the fore, the debt ceiling, for example, just in the run-up to the elections. How is this parliament going to be different from the previous one?
First of all, you've asked me the roles of a woman rep. Number one, you have to promote the interest of the following people: women through their affirmative groups, action groups. Then the vulnerable in our societies. We have people living with disability. Like in my region where we come from, we still practice female genital mutilation, which has increased teen mothers. Why am I saying this? When they go through the CAT, they are told, you have now graduated from childhood to adulthood. Now you are confirming to these young girls that they are mothers. They will always want to try. Some of them, maybe, they've been taking care of their bodies. Then you find someone trying to open up their skirts for the cat. Now they no longer feel ashamed to do it to anybody. That has promoted a high rate of teen mothers. If you are your Department of Research could go to Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. Please go and carry out a story on teen mothers. It is worrying. And those children live in misery. As journalists, you will have done something for our kids. So in this new parliament, we'll try to still be a voice of women, because without making noise, nothing will be done. So we will really measure into those things and many more that I cannot talk now that you've said we only have 3 minutes.
Yeah, clearly now we even have 1 minute. 1 minute. But I mean, that's a good one, just also understanding from your perspective and the issues ailing Kisii County. Much as we didn't have time to really talk about Parliament, there's really quite a lot to discuss in respect in this incoming Parliament, the 13th Parliament.
Please call me. I have more to tell you.
I know.
I have more to tell you about our young girls. Even people living with disability. It is a whole lot. It's a whole lot.
All right, well said, and clearly a good place to end it. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for your time, for making time for us this Wednesday morning. That is Honorable Donya Aburi, Kisii Women Representative. I mean, a good place to end Good Morning Kenya, paving way for News Check. Coming in next, I'm Doreen Arange Okello. Good morning.
There's a new game in town. It's a game like no other. It's captivating. It's fun. Entertaining and refreshing.
Which year was the film released?
Correct answer.
Don't miss out on the Second Chance television game show, premiering on Channel 1.
Who's this young man?
Regardless of what you think, I'm still the avian king. Even if your father is here, he should still show me respect.
Mother! Mother!
Mother?
Mother, why did you abandon me and father?
I think you're mistaken.
Really?
哪怕海角天涯
I know we speak I know we speak
You're serving the Lord, your creator, your celestial maker.
Life cannot always be too serious.
Yeah, man, what's up here?
Allah? We've got to take some time off and laugh, and laugh. And we tickle you down with lots of laughter.
That's why I'm saying I'm who is who. Huh?
With satire like no other.
Tell him to bring it on.
Dakachapa.
Naam, hii ni Mitikasi Leo, makala kutoka BBC yaliyomo. Msaada wa chakula kutoka Ukraine hatimaye wasili Ethiopia. Baadaye chanjo mpya ya kupunguza vifo vya malaria ifikapo mwaka 2030 na hatimaye kutokomeza ugonjwa huo mwaka 2040 yazinduliwa. Kisha tunatupia jicho mchango wa uwepo wa makazi nafuu katika kuchangia ukuaji wa uchumi na ustawi wa kijamii mbashara kutoka Nairobi, Kenya. Twende kazi. Na hujambo popote ulipo, karibu katika toleo la leo. Makala yanaangazia habari za biashara zinazokuhusu, uchambuzi wa kina na mahojiano. Ni Telines Mwashihadi. Tuanze taarifa zetu kutoka upembe wa Afrika ambapo ngano iliyokusudiwa kuleta afueni kwa wanaokabiliwa na baa la njaa imewasili Ethiopia. Aidha, chakula cha msaada cha tani 23,000 ambacho kilipakuliwa nchini Djibouti wiki moja iliyopita kilisafirishwa hadi Afrika kutoka Ukraine na meli inaitwa MV Brave Commander. Hii ni baada ya Ukraine na Urusi kufikia makubaliano na Uturuki na Umoja wa Mataifa mwezi uliopita kufungua ukanda unaoruhusu usafirishaji wa chakula. Ngano hiyo inakusudia kuzalisha au kulisha watu milioni 1.5 nchini Ethiopia kwa mwezi mmoja. Ethiopia pamoja na nchi nyinginezo katika ukanda huo zinakabiliwa na ukame wa muda mrefu. Nchini Somalia, baadhi ya maeneo imetangazwa kushuhudia baa la njaa na vita vya Ukraine vimeongeza gharama ya juu ya bei ya vyakula na mfumuko wa bei. Kulingana na Benki ya Maendeleo ya Afrika, mfumuko wa bei ya chakula katika bara unasimamia 40%. Lakini je, chakula hiki cha msaada kitatoa afueni yoyote kwa mamilioni ya Afrika wanaokodolea macho njaa? Na awali nimezungumza na Donald Mariam, mkurugenzi mkuu wa Ripoa. Nilianza kwa kumuuliza iwapo ujio wa shehena ya pili ya nafaka italeta afueni kwa mataifa ambayo yanakodolea macho baa la njaa. Tumsikize.
Inaweza kuleta afueni kidogo sana, kwa kuwa nadhani mahitaji ya chakula ni makubwa sana, na hatufahamu kwamba lini shehena nyingine inaweza kaingia, lakini mahitaji ya chakula ni makubwa, hali ya hewa bado ni mbaya. Kwa hiyo inaweza kuleta afueni kidogo, sio sana.
Na mtutarajia kwamba bei ya chakula itashuka, hasa ikizingatiwa kwamba mfumuko wa bei ya chakula inasimamia katika 40% barani?
Sidhani kama itapungua kwa kipindi cha muda mfupi na kwa ajili ya shehena moja tu. Itategemea sasa wingi wa upatikanaji wa nafaka, na hatuelewi kwamba vita hivi, mgogoro huu utapisha lini, na whether na shehena nyingine zitaendelea kufika kama ambazo zilikuwa zinafika wakati wa kabla ya vita. Na pia hali ya uzalishaji wa chakula bado ndani ya Afrika bado ni mbaya kutokana na hali ya hewa, lakini pia uzalishaji duni unaotokana na wakulima wengi wadogo kutumia zana pamoja na teknolojia ambayo ni duni. Kwa hiyo uzalishaji bado ni mdogo. Nadhani kutokana na hali ya hewa bado bei zitaendelea kuwa juu kwa kipindi cha muda wa kati.
Na ujio wa shehena hii umeleta afueni tuseme kidogo, na labda ile matarajio ya kwamba huenda ikawa ndio mwanzo wa hali kurudi sawa. Unaona labda swala zima la mnyororo wa ugavi utarejea katika hali yake ya kawaida?
Mimi nadhani ni jambo ambalo litachukua muda kidogo, kwa sababu bado mapigano yanaendelea. Hatuwezi kufahamu kwamba upande mmoja utaamua nini. Unaweza kukuta kwamba shehena hiyo imekuja, baadaye shehena zingine zikazuiliwa. Hatuna uhakika na hilo. Lakini kimsingi nadhani mnyororo wa thamani, kama nchi zingine zitaweza kuongeza uzalishaji na tukaona kwamba hata shughuli za uchukuzi ambazo zimevurugika sana duniani kwa sasa kutokana na janga hili la corona, lakini pia upatikanaji wa mafuta kuwa mgumu na bei za nishati hiyo kuongezeka, bado nadhani gharama inaendelea kuwa juu, na hadi hapo ambapo nchi za Afrika zitakuwa zimepata maeneo mengine ambayo yanaweza kuagiza chakula, lakini pia kuongeza uzalishaji ndani ya nchi, ambayo ndio jambo la muhimu sana katika kuhakikisha kwamba bei ya vyakula ndani ya bara la Afrika inapungua.
Naam, kwa sasa tupe macho taarifa zingine za biashara kutoka barani Afrika na kimataifa. Chanjo mpya iliyo na uwezo wa kupunguza vifo vinavyotokana na malaria ifikapo mwaka 2030 na kutokomeza kabisa ifikapo mwaka 2040 yazinduliwa na wanasayansi walioitengeneza. Aidha, tamko hilo lilitolewa baada ya jaribio kadhaa za chanjo hiyo kufaulu barani Afrika. Mtengenezaji mkubwa zaidi wa chanjo duniani, taasisi ya Serum ya India, imekubali kutengeneza dozi milioni 200 kwa mwaka. Alafu rais wa zamani wa Afrika Kusini Jacob Zuma amemshtaki mwanahabari na mwendesha mashtaka ya umma anayeongoza kesi ya ufisadi dhidi yake. Zuma anatuhumiwa kwa kushiriki ufisadi mwaka 1999 katika mkataba wa silaha wa milioni ya dola. Zuma alianzisha uchunguzi wa kibinafsi kuhusu ripoti yake ya matibabu baada ya kuvujwa na mwendesha mashtaka wa umma Billy Downer, ripoti iliyochapishwa na mwanahabari huyo. Alafu Tanzania imepuuzilia mbali madai ya kusitisha utoaji wa vibali vipya vya kuuza mahindi nje ya nchi kutokana na ongezeko la uhaba katika ukanda huo na kuwataka wafanyabiashara kutoka nchi jirani kufuata taratibu. Wasagaji wa mahindi kutoka Kenya walidai kuwa nchi hiyo iliacha kutoa vibali wiki jana na kunyima fursa ya uingizaji nafaka hiyo nchini Kenya. Hii ni mitikasi leo kutoka BBC. Mchango wa uwepo wa makazi nafuu katika kuchangia ukuaji wa uchumi na ustawi wa kijamii. Tusonge mbele. Makazi huchangia pakubwa katika kukuza uchumi na katika ustawi wa kijamii. Nyingi ya nchi Afrika kwa sasa zinakabiliwa na tatizo la makazi ya bei nafuu, ikiwa na uhaba wa makazi milioni 51. Tupigie kurunzi swala hili. Chukulia mfano wa Nigeria ambapo watu zaidi ya milioni 14 wanaishi katika mitaa duni. Aidha, hali ni sawa nchini Ghana ambapo kuna hitaji la makazi takriban milioni 1.7, na kwingineko Afrika Kusini hitaji la nyumba ni milioni 3.7, huku nchini Kenya ikiwa milioni 2. Makadirio yanaonyesha kuwa sekta ya nyumba barani inahitaji uwekezaji wa angalau dola bilioni 2.5 kila mwaka. Misukosuko kutokana na COVID-19, mfumuko wa bei za bidhaa duniani kutokana na vita nchini Ukraine imetatiza mwendelezo wa miradi ya maendeleo barani Afrika. Aidha, asilimia 59 ya idadi ya watu walio mijini katika maeneo au eneo la kusini mwa jangwa la Sahara wanaishi katika mitaa ya mabanda. Sasa awali nimezungumza na Morris Makolo, mkurugenzi wa shirika la kimataifa la makazi. Nilianza kwa kumuuliza itachukua nini kufanya hatua ya kukodi nyumba barani Afrika kwa nafuu. Tumsikize.
Tunahitaji sheria na sera wezeshi. Jambo la kwanza. Jambo la pili, tunahitaji ushirikiano mwafaka kati ya serikali, mashirika ya kibinafsi na mashirika yasiyokuwa ya kiserikali, taasisi zisizokuwa za serikali. 3, tunahitaji uvumbuzi wa teknolojia, hakikisha kwamba kila mtu, ama tunapohitaji kujenga nyumba kadhaa tunayajenga kwenye tunapotumia bei ya rahisi.
Labda sera wezeshi unazozungumzia ni zipi na zinaweza kuleta suluhu ambapo watunga sera barani Afrika wanaweza kuziangazia kwa kina ili kuweza kuhakiki kwamba makaazi yanaweza kuwa nafuu na wengi barani Afrika wanaweza basi kuafikia makaazi haya?
Swala hili ama sekta hii ya ujenzi ama nyumba za bei nafuu zinauiana kikamilifu na sekta nyingine husika. Mfano, afya. 2, muundombinu. 3, uchumi. 4, watu ambao ama tuseme wa sekta ya wana youth. Kumaanisha kwamba tunapotoa sheria ama tunapotunza sheria ni hakikisha kwamba tunafanya uwiano wa kikamilifu, ndio sasa tunapoweka nafasi